Greetings, all you lovely people. Last night, Thor from Once Upon a Saga, that's his project name, came through to the lab last night, and we held an Indaba. It was a fascinating story. Thor has embarked on a massive saga, a massive odyssey of traveling to every single country in the world without flying. So anything over land and sea is good. Recently, well, actually a year ago, he was actually trapped, or luckily trapped, in Hong Kong. He could have easily been caught on a container ship, but as such, he's being grounded here, and he cannot get out of Hong Kong until the port authorities allow non-essential people onto container ships. Thor's also a representative of the Danish Red Cross, and he's quite knowledgeable about the Red Cross, which was good because I don't have much knowledge of the Red Cross. So he went about and enlightened me about the work that the Red Cross is doing throughout the world. It's absolutely fascinating. The conversation was really interesting. There's a lot of other stuff in there, but I think I gave you the sort of core tidbits for you to see, for you to decide whether you wish to go through this conversation or not. Anyway, do support Thor on his journey, and also, how about the Red Cross too? Hope you enjoy this. 3, 2, 1. Thor, how's it, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Brilliant. A friend of a friend mentioned that there was an interesting person in town,
Okay.
and then forwarded the number to me, and I
And you
contacted
couldn't get that person, so here I am.
Say?
And you couldn't get a hold of that person, so here I am.
No, I couldn't. No, no. Actually, you were the interesting person.
Oh, that's kind of you.
But what's? I mean, one of the number 2, the episode number 2 of the interviews I've done was with a chap named Mike Spencer Baum.
Yeah.
Have you met him? Do you know him?
No, I haven't met him, but I know of him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's rather legendary, isn't he?
He is.
But you're in a similar position. I mean, you've been traveling to 202 countries now?
The target is 203, and I've reached 194 of them.
Oh.
Yeah, and I got stuck in Hong Kong in January.
And then COVID nails you.
Yeah, and here we are in December. So.
Yeah. What's the story? When did you start? So you're from Denmark?
I'm from Denmark, yes, which is a tiny country in the northern part of Europe.
Yeah.
With about 5.5 million people in comparison to Hong Kong's 7.5 million. So that's crazy. I grew up in a small village with about 1,200 people. So this is big city life. Yeah. Fast forward to when I got the idea was 2013. I was reading an article, and through that article I found that no one in history has achieved to go to every country in the world completely without flying.
Oh wait, okay, so you're not just going to every single country in the world.
No.
You actually, Jesus, you're not flying.
Yeah. So
Good
that's
God.
the ordeal with this. That's what makes it truly interesting, I guess. And numbers are a little bit uncertain, but surely a bit more than 200 people by now have been able to go to every country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And one must stress that no matter how it's done, it doesn't come easy.
Yeah.
For the majority of the world, well, your passport certainly decides many things, but for the majority of the world, it's just, you cross borders, you get your visas and so on. And then there are a few countries around the world that make it nearly impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true for everyone. And then you take out the airplanes, and then it's overall impossible.
How long have you been doing this? How long have you been on this freaking odyssey?
It started on the 10th of October 2013. So we recently came across the 7-year marker. And it was set to take somewhere between 3.5 and 4 years to accomplish.
And it's primarily trains, vehicles.
Yeah, public
walking.
transportation wherever possible. So
Yeah.
buses, trains, taxis, minibuses, ferries.
Yeah.
I get on board anything that floats. So people, if they invite me on board their sailboat, I'll go with them. Motorboats, a high performance yacht. I've been on a bunch of container ships, fishing boats, shrimp trawlers. But the most normal part of the journey would be buses, followed by trains.
Right. And where did you start? I mean, like, what are some of the interesting stories that you've come across during this long ordeal? I mean,
those are two different questions, though. So I started.
Well, I know.
In Denmark.
Yeah.
And crossed the border to Germany. So I counted Denmark as number 1, and then Germany as number 2. And then I looked back at the border and realized I've never been further away from home than what I was, because I said I wasn't going to go back home until I've been to every country in the world. So it's how do I normally phrase this? I say it's a single journey to every single country in the world, or it's a journey to every single country in the world in an unbroken journey, completely without flying. So the idea is it's more than 24 hours in each country. That's the project minimum.
Okay.
On average, I stay 12 days, 13 days in each country.
Okay.
I can't fly at any point, and I cannot return home until I finish the project or quit.
Okay. Yeah, the metric my brother and I have for, whether you have arrived in a country or not is whether you've taken a shit in it.
I think I can tick that one off.
Yeah. Okay, and then so basically you just did Europe, and then from there, where are some of the most interesting places that you've been to?
North Korea was interesting. Syria was interesting. Equatorial Guinea was interesting. Brazil was interesting.
How do you handle diseases? Like if you get sick or something?
Not well, I guess.
Yeah.
I get sick. I had malaria at one point.
Uh-huh.
Cerebral malaria. That's where malaria gets to your brain.
Oh, Jesus.
And it can be the end of you within a couple of days if you're not treated. But there is treatment for it. And I was in a lucky position. And I got help. But that was like a 12-day process.
Where was that?
I was in Western Africa in a country called Ghana.
Yes, Ghana.
And you can definitely get malaria in Ghana. You can, during the rain season, you can get malaria. Number of countries. But I think the mosquito got me in Liberia. There was a night where I'm on a really small budget for this project, so I said I was going to do it on a $20 per day budget, which covers transportation, accommodation, visas, and meals.
And you ended up in Hong Kong, one of the most expensive cities in the world.
Yeah, but I get a lot of help from a lot of people. People are very supportive of what I do. But back then, I was looking for a place to stay at night, and that's a part of the world where everything costs nothing. Nothing
Right.
costs anything.
Yeah.
So, it's $2 meals or $1 meals, and you get on a bus for $1 or a couple of dollars, and this kind of stuff. You get a SIM card with a few gigabytes of data for a few dollars.
Yeah.
And they wanted $50 for me to stay at this place, and I was trying to bargain with them, and I was only going to be there for 6 or 7 hours anyway.
Yeah.
And they didn't. There was no bargaining. I mean, like, I'm a North European guy, and I must be a millionaire, and all this. There's just no bargaining.
The dollar signs are hanging above your head,
sure.
right?
Walking dollar sign. So then I walked away from there, and I traveled with a hammock, and I was looking for a place where to put that up, and I saw a gas station which was well lit, and there were a couple of guards, and I asked them if I could stay there for the night, and they said yes, and there was nowhere to hang the hammock, so I just slept directly on the ground. At this point, I had a chance of getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep before the next bus, and then onward. And mosquitoes were just eating me throughout the night.
Damn it.
So there's a gas station in the jungle in Liberia. I'm pretty sure that was
it.
That was
What is in your backpack? Your sort of like,
yeah.
the mainstay stuff.
I tried to pack in a way where I would have whatever I needed for every country, every climate.
Uh-huh.
And there's a winter jacket, which I haven't had much use of.
No.
There's lots of clothes. I wear a uniform. So this is my project uniform with the project logo and sponsors and this kind of stuff. and I have 6 of these, and I have underwear and clothing, this kind of stuff. I travel with some books. I have a hammock. I have a sleeping bag. I have a few tools.
No mosquito net.
I do have a mosquito net, which is fitted for the hammock. So if I can get the hammock up, I can put the mosquito net around it. But there was nowhere to hang that hammock on that day. What else do I have? Lots of electronics. I mean, like everything you have needs to get charged at some point. So I have lots of wires and this kind of stuff, cables. Yeah.
I suppose as you're doing the project, you have to sort of like, you know, make footage and, you know, keep everybody updated about your progress kind of thing.
But I'm a relic. The world has moved forward. Everything's video today. And it was video when I left home, but I just didn't want to hear it. And I still don't want to hear it. So I take photos and I write a blog and I upload photos to social media and I do a little bit of video, but I'm not a video kind of guy.
All right. Well, this can be classified as
part of that, sure.
Right? I'll do the grunt work, right?
Yeah, good on you.
You just share the stories, right?
Yeah, a lot of my video footage is something someone else did.
Somebody else, yeah, right. So, okay, wouldn't you say your hat is the most important thing?
Yeah, sure. The hat is iconic for my alter ego as Thor traveling across the world, the man with the hat and the beard.
What's the story there? Your name is actually Thor?
Well, yeah, half my name is Thor, the other half is Bear. My name is Thor Bear, but in Danish, which is Torbjørn.
Okay.
And we used to be Vikings, if you go back 1,000 years, and that religion used to be our religion, which is now called Norse mythology. And Thor was one of the main gods, and Thor was the strongest of all the gods. And we have all sorts of names that carry that he's strong or he's powerful. So Thor Bear indicates that Thor is as strong as a bear. Mm-hmm. And when I left home, I introduced myself as Torbjørn, and people couldn't quite.
They couldn't say that.
And the Marvel movies were out and whatnot. So I went like, "Do you know who Thor is?" I'm like, "Yeah, Thor." And I went like, "I'm Thor." I'm like, "You're Thor?" I said, "Yeah, I'm Thor."
Where's your damn hammer?
Yeah, not everybody gets to see it. So the beard is, I don't like shaving, and if I can get away with not shaving, I don't. And I have a fiance back home, and she doesn't accept a beard, and she's been out to see me a number of times, and every time she shows up, I shave, and outside of that, I just let it grow.
Okay, that means you haven't seen it for a good wee while.
Yeah, about 15 months now.
Ah, jeez, man. Yeah. No. First thing she's going to ask is for that to go. When I start getting a bit too bushy, you know.
Yeah, I imagine. No, she asks me now. Like, we're 8,000 kilometers apart. She says, you should cut it. Like, it doesn't look nice. Trim it, at least.
You look like a caveman or something.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different things. So, I mean, I have a few followers online, and they're sort of divided in 2 camps. Like, half of them, they say, get rid of it. And the other half is, no, Viking, stick with it. It looks awesome. Keep it. So it's in between.
Yeah. How is South America?
I love South America. I think most people that have just the slightest bit of an adventurous spirit within them, they love South America. I mean, South America is life. It's food and music, and it's beautiful, and people are alive. Yeah. It's great. So I didn't run into any danger in South America. That was I was warned. Every country I went to in South America said, "Oh, you're fine as long as you're in our country, but don't go to the neighboring country. Like they'll cut your head off." And I went to the next country, and they were like, "No, you're fine here. This is brilliant. This is paradise. But where did you say you came from? I'm surprised you're still alive."
You managed to survive. It's amazing.
And people were lovely, and people were helpful. South America. But South America was back in 2014. You know, that was early days in the project. So I left home and went to Western and Central Europe. Then I went over the North Atlantic on 7 different ships and boats, fishing boats, shrimp trawlers, whatnot, and made it to North America, Canada, US, Mexico, down through Central America.
Skipping
South
Iceland?
America. I went to Iceland as well, yeah. That was in the North Atlantic. Yeah.
What a wonderful place. I love Iceland.
Yeah, so when people, they say, what's your favorite country? I sort of dodge the question. I say, listen, if I couldn't go home to Denmark and I had to pick another country, I would pick Iceland. And
I
I have
tend to
a
agree with
number of reasons why that would be.
I tend to agree with you. Yeah. We rented a 4x4 and drove around Iceland.
Ah, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, there's a ring road. How long did that take?
No, well, not all of it, half of it.
Okay.
Half of it.
I did that in a truck. I arrived in the eastern part and had to get to Reykjavik in the western. That was a 12-hour drive in a truck.
Oof. Yeah, I proposed to my wife in Iceland.
Oh, did you? Congratulations.
I was rather nervous. He was sort of driving along, and I was like, okay, where's everything's so beautiful?
Yeah.
Where's a great place? And we saw like a place over there. And look at sort of like a mountain kind of thing. Yeah. So we decided to go for a bit of a hike up there. And
probably a volcano.
yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, I think the volcano was further up the mountain. This was one of those little sort of like outlets down the way next to the water, I think. But yeah, that's where I proposed, and yeah, I remember.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good setting.
Yeah, I still feel kind of nervous now. I think talking about it, and this is already like 4 years ago. Yeah, no, Iceland was just unbelievable. The beauty of that place.
Yeah. It is. It's a legendary place, and the spirit of the people as well.
Yeah.
It's a modern society, which I think a lot of people they miss. That they get the iPhones at the same time that the rest of the world does.
Yeah.
The movies and everything they need.
Yeah. And then after Iceland, you sort of went over to North America.
Yeah, so
Canada?
I went from Scotland to Faroe Islands, and from Faroe Islands I got to Iceland, and from Iceland I got to Greenland. From Greenland I came back to Iceland to reach Canada.
So after Scotland and Iceland, the rest of the world was downhill then. Just kidding.
Yeah, so eventually I ended up in South America, and then made my way up north after ticking off the countries, and came through the Caribbean. And then when I left the Caribbean, I was done with the Western Hemisphere. So that was North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. And then I embarked on Africa.
But you're skipping over so much. There's so much there. What about Argentina? What about Chile?
Well, I was there. I was there. Argentina, good meat, nice people. I went to Argentina twice within this project, because for South America I wanted to do a video. I had this idea that I had to get into this video market, and I needed to make a video which would go viral. And I was trying to work out, and people were doing these videos where they would have like a selfie stick, and that would follow them around, and then as they go around themselves, it would change different locations. This kind of stuff, like that's been done, and this has been done, and everything's been done, and the dancing has been done. So
that's right. Yeah.
What about if I jump on one leg? What if I just bounce around on one leg in all the footage? Has that been done? I don't think that's been done. So I did that, and I made a video where I was jumping around in Ecuador, and then I was jumping around in Peru, and I was jumping, and then in front of different landmarks. And then my fiance came to visit me in Bolivia, and we traveled together to Chile. And I forgot about the jumping stuff in Chile. And then I crossed the border. I put her on an airplane in Santiago. She flew home, and I took a bus and crossed the border into Argentina, and went like, I don't have any jumping on one leg footage from Chile. And I was looking around. I just crossed the border. And I was looking around going like, no one's going to know. Like this, who on one side or the other side of the mountain, no one's going to know. I might as well just do it here. I'm like, but I don't want to be that guy. I want my word is my bond. So I got on a bus and I went back to Chile, back to Santiago before the sun set. I jumped around in front of different landmarks, and then came back to Argentina again.
Are you still doing this? Are you still jumping?
No, that was just for South America. Then I had this idea that throughout the Caribbean, I wanted to do video footage of people laughing. I thought that would be nice, like get this human spirit. People are having a good time laughing. But it became forced. So when I started doing that, well, I told people what I was going to do, and then people were really engaged in trying to laugh. Yeah, it was too much or too little. It was fake. Yeah. And I did it for a couple of countries. I went like, that's not going to work. That's not the idea I had. Yeah. It needs more time. It needs to be approached in a different way. And then I stuck with the video thing for Africa, new concept again. Said I wanted to do some video footage of the traveling, so the different modes of transportation, and in fast speed, kind of. So the video is 2.5 minutes long and has all 54 countries, and it's like buses and boats and this and that. And I had a good friend I met in Senegal, Aski. He composed some music for it, and it's perfect. He's a genius. And we put that together and put it on YouTube, and that also did not go viral. I never made anything that went viral. I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
No, I don't think you need to. You really don't. Just more of a body of knowledge, and whoever's interested in you would find out.
There are a lot of values within this project, and I do.
What
want
are
to
they?
In a second, I'll get. But I want to share those values, and the larger my audience is, the wider a reach I get with those values, and I think that's important. And then you look at people that are 14 years old and they have 80,000 followers on Instagram, or a cat that has 1 million followers. This kind of thing. Like, what am I supposed to do? So I guess sometimes you can try a little bit too hard as well. But I mean, if something went viral, that would definitely lift the project. I don't know. So yeah, value. I mean, this project is an easier way of seeing what I'm doing is to see it as 3 separate projects. So one is about the achievement to go to all the countries in an unbroken journey completely without flying. And that's already a full-time job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of paperwork, and that's a lot of time spent in transportation, and that's a lot of time spent working out where's the bus terminal, or which bus terminal do you take, or which train, and how do you get the tickets, and lots of logistics, lots of bureaucracy. And let's say that's one project. And that doesn't really benefit anyone else than me. You know, like most people would go like, it's a great story, and who did you meet, and what happened, and what do you think of the world, and so and so. But that's not enough for people to adapt the idea. It's like a cool guy to invite for something, but you know. So I'm traveling as a goodwill ambassador of the Danish Red Cross, and I've been meeting up with the Red Cross globally, the Red Cross and the Red Crescent. That's 2 sides of the same coin. And I've met with them in 189 countries. So that's the world's largest humanitarian organization. And I've met with volunteers and with staff, and I've gone out to see projects, and I've met with the beneficiaries. And I try to write down those stories, and I've delivered more than 100 of such stories from more than 100 countries to the Danish Red Cross. On top of that, we've been raising funds and raising awareness and inspiring the volunteers, saying like, look, if I can do what I'm doing and not give up and not fold and not go home, then imagine what you can do. And imagine what you can do when you work together. So you have 4 or 5 volunteers, and you get the synergy from that. Imagine what you're able to accomplish. And that does help them focus on humanitarian work and to get stuff done. And sometimes the boost is really, really needed. So that's the second part of the project. You have the achievement, every country without flying. Then you have the Red Cross humanitarian element, and that's sort of for everyone. You know, the more money we can send towards the Red Cross, the better it is. Like that all gets converted into helping the most vulnerable people on this planet, and that's truly important. But yeah, so 1, 2, and the third one would be positive promotion of every country in the world. And that happened after a couple of weeks of traveling. So I left home going, I'm going to be that guy who went to all the countries without flying. That's what I care about. Where's the next bus? Where's the next train? Go, 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 go. And after a couple of weeks of doing that, I was a bit exhausted, but I was also surprised about what I had seen and what I have encountered. And I was going through countries I've heard about, or I've seen them in a movie, or stuff like this. And I was just wondering how my perception of these countries could be so wrong. It's sort of like the Borat kind of movies, and you see Kazakhstan, and you think that's Kazakhstan, and you go and you see what Kazakhstan is, and you go like, oh, I'm an idiot. That was a movie, and of course that is a comedy. You know? So that, so I went through a lot of countries, and I really felt like I'm a somewhat well-educated guy, and I had traveled a lot before I embarked on this project. I've seen a lot, And I didn't know that Bulgaria was like that. I didn't know Romania was like that. I didn't know that Czech Republic was like that. There was many things that surprised me as I went through these countries. And I went, well, if I don't know, maybe other people don't know. And then I sort of thought about it and came to the conclusion that most of the world is either promoted extremely negatively. Most media, that's what gets people to watch, and that's what people they find interesting quite often. If something's blown up or people have died or there's a war or conflict or a disease or something else. And then you also get these people that look at their Instagram profiles and it's them, it's a beautiful person standing on a beautiful mountain going like and none of those two pictures really represent the countries. And the more I went through countries and the more people I met and the more that I saw, the more I just realized that people are just people and we're all sort of trying to do the same thing. You know, we get stuck in traffic and we try to finish our educations and keep our jobs and raise children. We want to go dancing, we want to drink a beer, or we want to smoke some shisha. People just being people. And I felt like that was not being promoted enough, and I sort of took that upon myself to say, listen, this is the more normal perspective of life. So I'm happy to show a photo of an ordinary street, and then people somewhere else on this planet can look at that photo and say, oh, that's what the cars look like, or that's what people are wearing, or this is a clean street, or it's dirty, or there's sidewalks, or there are no sidewalks, or there are mountains in the background, or what does it look like? Is it uniform? Is it a beautiful, well-designed city? Or is every house unique and everything's different? And that goes for a lot of the stuff I share. I've been stuck in Hong Kong for nearly a year, so I do a lot of hiking. I share a lot of hiking photos now. But that's really important element of this project, and sometimes it's the most important element of what I do, for me at least. And I get a lot of good feedback from people that are invested, saying that it's nice to see that people fall in love in Syria and get married, or that people have smartphones in Somalia and take selfies and upload them to Facebook and Instagram or TikTok or wherever people they do today. That all around the world people were watching Game of Thrones. It didn't matter where I went when that was going, everyone was watching Game of Thrones. No, everyone, but it really felt like that was a theme. Everyone was talking about Donald Trump. They were talking about Donald Trump before he got elected. Do you think it's a joke? Do you think he really wants to be president? Blah, blah, blah. It's never going to happen. This is ridiculous. And he got elected, and then the people were divided in two camps. He's Messiah. He's going to solve all our problems. Or like, how did this happen? This is the end of the world. And we're still talking about Donald Trump. And that's a universal topic. It does. You can go to the smallest villages and people will go, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I think that shows humanity. I really think that shows that you can go around the world and you can seek out that tribe where they put that in their lip or that in their this, and they color themselves, or they walk around naked. But that's not normality. That's normality for that tribe or a small percentage. But the majority, I mean, you're from South Africa. I mean, the reputation of South Africa is you go, you die. Like someone's going to rob and murder you. And I went and had a great time in South Africa. And I loved the wine and the beer and the meat. And I went across the nation, and I went like, you could film every movie I've ever seen somewhere in South Africa. Like it just changes over and over, from the fields to the mountains and the lakes and the coastline. And people were kind, and no matter, I mean, I went some dodgy places in South Africa, and the people I met, they were all warning me against other people. But nobody did. I went with the subway in Pretoria, and I arrived to where I was staying for the night, and this woman was like, how did you get here? Do you already have an Uber number or a driver you trust? I took the subway. And you took that subway. Like, nobody takes this up. And people were staring at me, but like people were just, you know, I've never got into a bus where everyone was a terrorist, and I never went to a country where everybody was sick. Like these things do not exist. Around the world, people are trying to make the best of whichever little corner they have, and they're trying to protect their neighbors and their family and their loved ones. And they listen to the same music, and some places they listen to their own music plus the international music. I mean, traveling again, Africa, I can speak forever about Africa. I spent 2 years and 3 months going through that massive continent. And Africa represents more than a quarter of the world's countries, so it's not a bad place to end up talking. You know, there's a lot to talk about. But something I really, when I got to Central Africa, I was listening to the music, and I can't hear the difference. I can't hear about the difference between what we're playing in the discotheques in Denmark or what they're playing in London or somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah, Rihanna and this kind of stuff. I mean, there was a great beat. There was a well-produced music.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if this is a hit in Cameroon or if this is a hit in Nigeria, why wouldn't this be a hit in across Europe? And it just isn't. The music just sort of doesn't spread in the same way. It's like, oh, we praise Africa for having all this culture and diversity and so on. We just don't want to import it. Like we go to Africa for it, but we have our own. And it's a weird thing. But yeah, people being people dating, people spend so much time on thinking about the other sex or the same sex or whatever people they do, and working out what they can say, what will work, and what they should wear. People care about which belt they have on and what kind of shoes and what their hair looks like. It's a big thing on this planet. And mothers, they love their children. And you know, that's a universal thing. Everywhere around the world, a mother wants her children to grow up and have a better life than what they had themselves. And opportunities, good friends, good food, good education. You know.
I was chatting with Mike Spencer-Bound, and he was talking about the effect of COVID in the world, and he was saying that whenever there's like a massive calamity or something in the first world countries, what happens is it sort of percolates down into the developing countries, and as a result, he was saying that hundreds of thousands of people can die. You actually, he says, you can see a noticeable deterioration in the environments around them. Have you come across some similar sort of thing? Well, mind you haven't really traveled during COVID.
I traveled during Ebola.
But yeah, you did. And other there, you know.
I was listening to the BBC this morning, and there was a reporter saying that normally when we have these big events, like for the US with 9/11, which shook the world and changed the world forever, that unifies people. And with COVID-19, it seems like it hasn't really done that. It did in the beginning. People were like, we're all in the same boat, we're all dealing with the same thing, you know, we can all get this can harm us. But across the U.S., this reporter was arguing that that's a clear divide. You can largely see who's a Republican and who's a Democrat based on if they're wearing a mask or not. Largely, like some Republicans will definitely wear a mask and some Democrats will not. But it's an interesting perspective that this didn't unify. That's a large country. That's 330 million people, and that COVID-19 worked as a point of division. And there's certainly something called COVID fatigue, and we've been ahead of the curve here in Hong Kong. We were wearing masks long before anyone else, and there was COVID fatigue here in Hong Kong as well. You could see people, as it was the police wasn't around, so they would maybe take the mask off or just pull it down below their nose and this kind of stuff. And people want to get on with their lives. And I was talking to someone today, and we were just talking about, I fully believe in this virus, that it exists, that it's a real thing, that it's harmful, and that we need to do something about it, that we need to, you know, a lot of these hand washing and wearing masks and distancing ourselves. And I do believe that works, and that buys time for those people that are much more clever than what we are, can go out and solve the problem for us with vaccines. And that seems to be the case now. The vaccines are rolling out, and we need to take the vaccine so that we can get herd immunity and all this stuff. I believe in that. I do see where people are coming from with conspiracy theories, saying that this is nothing, like this is just something they're pulling over our... Because I have a vast network, and I do not know of anyone who's been seriously ill from COVID-19 and went to the hospital, or it was a close call, and I do not know of anyone who has died from this. And within my personal circles, I read about them and I see it on the news and so on. But I just go like, I have a vast network and I don't know of anyone, so and so. And then she said, the one I met with today, she said she does know. She knows people who have been hospitalized for longer periods, and she knows people who are dead because of COVID-19 as well. And that's, no, we agreed that it's a horrible thing to say, but it's sort of good to hear. You know, it's a reminder that this is something we need to deal with.
Yeah.
And I wonder, if we did nothing, how many would then die? I mean, we're doing all these things and we're not very good at it. We had one job, and that was just to buy time for the scientists so they could develop a vaccine, and then someone can produce and distribute it, and that's it. Our job was to keep it at bay, and we messed it up completely. You look at, again, the US, the UK, and a number of countries has just gone haywire.
Yeah.
And it's not really unifying. It's more like, I guess it's unified in hate, almost, where people are going like, I want this to be over. Do you want it to be over? Yeah, I want it to be over. This should be over.
Yeah. I wonder how much, can we take off the earphones? Because there's an echo that's going on here, which is, I'm finding to be rather...
Sure.
Something, it's maybe some technical thing I need to work on, but
okay.
At least now I can actually hear you without that damn echo. I wonder how much this the trust has been broken with the average person. We had the general surgeon in the United States saying, "Don't wear masks."
Yeah.
So like when you come across and you start giving out really false information or something along these lines, the general populace, when they start seeing dithering in supposed politicians who are being informed by, people a lot smarter than us, and then they're dithering, and then as a result, people lose trust in this. It's kind of concerning. But then, of course, I mean, there's going to be always groups of people which, stupid is as stupid does, man.
I mean, there are plenty of people that believe that the Earth is flat.
Yeah, right.
I do not believe the Earth is flat. I've seen a lot of it. But hey, the thing with the internet today is that no matter what you think, you're able to go out and find support.
Yeah.
If you believe that there's a civilization on the other side of the moon, then there are books about it.
Yeah.
And it didn't
Hollow
used to
Earth.
be like that. You used to be crazy on your own.
Yeah.
If your opinion, and sometimes you might be right, Sometimes you might think of something and be right, and then everyone would ridicule you. But there is plenty of stuff today where people do not deserve that voice. Because that's just, it's destructive for the rest of us. I don't know. I don't know who should be. Social media plays a large role today, and I think we see that across the politics again, and how much power politicians are able to gain based on politics or based on social media, and then everyone has a voice, so it doesn't matter if you're telling the truth or not. You can get hundreds of thousands or millions of likes if it plays into what they want to hear, and it intensifies the debate.
That reinforces them to sort of say more.
It is a strange time we're living in. We didn't have any, like, you and I were both old enough to have had childhoods where there was no smartphone, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there was no Google, there was no, you wanted to know it, go to the library. You wanted to see your friend, get on your bike and ride over there.
Travel to a country, fold out maps, That's how you did it.
and all of this has just come to us, and I mean, we hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And we're trying to keep up, and I don't know.
No.
I don't know. So I run social media, and sometimes I wonder, am I a dictator within my own little kingdom? Because
why would you see it that way?
I choose what to share. I choose.
What's wrong with that?
I choose what the truth is.
Okay.
I choose what Hong Kong is. on my social media.
Okay.
So if someone says you should tell this story, I can go, no, this is the story I want to tell. And then you can have thousands of followers, and they've maybe never been to Hong Kong, and they see my story. And then if someone comments or posts links or something like this which contradicts what I believe, then I can ban them, I can block them, I can remove them immediately, so that anyone else who's following will never see that there's another voice. That's not how I run my social media, but I could do that, and I imagine a lot of people do that. Like, they have their voice of reason, and they're telling their story, and people latch on, and that becomes the truth.
Yeah, I sort of design these systems, and I think it's a good thing to be able to block somebody.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're, for example, if you do something, let's say you're doing your Red Cross thing, and a group of people just launch this all-out attack on this thing, and the signal to noise ratio drops massively.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I don't have time to deal with all this crap. Just block it. And like on Twitter too, I don't have a problem blocking anybody who's rather rancid and really nasty. I have no problems doing that.
I haven't done it
or mute them.
Yeah, mute.
That's fine.
I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I haven't really. I think I might have blocked a few people over the years, but generally I have a very loyal following. It's a humble.
Yeah.
I don't have millions of followers, but they are loyal. They are supportive, and some of them have been following for years, and they see what I've done and who I've met and how kind people have treated me and so on. So if an outside voice comes in and criticizes me, then the sharks attack. I can stand back.
Oh, you mean your community will attack?
Yeah, they will defend me. This happened yesterday. I did a post yesterday where I'd gone on top of, I finished going on top of the 20 highest peaks here in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So I set that as a side goal here in Hong Kong. And I finished that on December 18th. And then I decided to post it yesterday. And there have been a few posts throughout the months going like, yeah, I'm doing this. I reached 15 peaks. I've reached 18 peaks. So yesterday I posted, done with all 20. Mount Everest is 8,848. When you add the numbers from these 20 mountains, then that reaches 14,000 meters or 14 kilometers. So accumulative, it's more than Everest. Here are all the mountain names. Here are all the heights. Boom, post. I was excited, going like, achievement and wonderful and a nice photo and mountains in Hong Kong and so on. And the first comment was from a guy who went, enough about fucking Hong Kong. I'm not going to follow anymore.
Oh, come
and I was
on.
looking at that comment and I was like, well, first of all, I'm not forcing you to follow. Like, if you don't want to follow, just leave. I don't know what's up with the comment. But then I decided to reply to him in such a way that I said, like, what do you want me to do? Like, I arrived here on the 28th of January, and pretty quickly things escalated. I've been stuck here ever since. Like, the border to Macau is closed and has been closed all this time.
Yeah.
I can't go to mainland China. I can't get on a ship. Like, what am I going to do? I think I'm showing endurance and persistence. I'm here. I'm sticking to it, even though it would be so much easier to say, who cares, and then go home and be with my fiancée. I think I'm bringing my country honor by representing my nation and interviews and talks and people I meet with and behaving in a nice, clean-cut way, trying to be a good guy as much as I can, and I'm trying to show people the world for how I see it through my eyes, and I'm promoting flora and fauna and people and cultures and food and all of this and so on. I've had malaria. I came back from that. I've tons of headaches throughout all of this, but here I am, and which is something that inspires and motivates people. And then I said, but if you want to leave, thank you for following as long as you did. And then people attacked. Not me. They attacked him. And that post that I did, like, my comment got more likes than the entire post, I think. And then people were so supportive, sending me messages, never give up, and what you're doing is amazing, and really encouraging messages. And then they were hating on that guy, and to a point where I was going, should I stop this, because this is not... And then a few comments down, that guy went like, I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. Of course, I'll continue following you. What you're doing is admirable. And then that post of his got a lot of likes and people going, like, it really takes a man to admit when they're wrong and this kind of stuff. So it was really interesting kind of a string of information in social media. But it did go to show how supportive my community is.
Yeah, but the feedback loops are also so quick, you know. Like if you're in a position of, you know, you make a comment on these sorts of things, you can be simple likes can be taken as like, you know, real sort of like acknowledgements from individual. I don't think we're wired this way. Do you know what I mean? We're not wired to interact with hundreds of thousands of people at once at the same time, or
what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Like, not like,
yeah,
share,
exactly.
do
Yeah.
this, stuff.
Yeah. So I think we need to rewire something on how to handle these sorts of things.
It's not going backwards.
No. Yeah. Exactly. Well. Yeah. It isn't. No, it isn't. No,
Elon Musk is working on the Neuralink, isn't he? So you'll just get it straight into your brain. Like, do you like this? Do you like that? Do you want to be friends with this one? Do you want to do this? Do you want to buy these underpants? Do you want to?
I'm not so sure it's about that. It's more about increasing the bandwidth, like between.
That's the beginning. Where do you think it goes when computers can?
Yeah, that's true.
Can engage directly with your brain.
It's going to be the same old human stuff, just satisfying the limbic system essentially.
You'll have some hacker in the basement who just shuts your brain down eventually.
Jesus no. Yeah, as somebody who does technology like that sort of stuff really kind of makes me a little bit nervous. I would prefer maybe not to have it.
I don't know. Maybe we're being fools. Maybe it's true that they'll work at like you'll get better eyesight, or they'll be able to fix brain damage, and they'll do all of these things that they say they would be able to do.
Let's see.
It's remarkable if you look how much you can replace from the human body. So once in a while I get these photos or small videos where they show you get a bypass operation and you get a new leg and the new hip. Right. This and
bionics.
It is incredible how much you can remove and replace from a human being. You start debating how much of you is in that body. So why not mess with the brain as well? You know, we already do with pharmaceuticals and so on.
Well, before you know, it's the ghost in the shell where everything but the brain has been replaced. Tell me about the Red Cross in
the Red Cross.
Globally. What sort of like projects are they working on? What sort of I don't know too much about it.
It's a good question, but it's just like,
well, you know, one bite at a time, right?
Here's my journey through it. I knew that they dealt with humanitarian work. I knew that it was a force for good on this planet. I supported them on and off, donations, this kind of stuff. And then I kicked off this project and became a goodwill ambassador of the Danish Red Cross. And I was like, that's fine, that's good for the project, it's good branding as well, it gives something extra. If I lack motivation at some point, maybe that will be able to motivate me to continue. And so that's sort of where I came from right from the beginning. Well, like, it's a good thing. I'm not like those people. Those are people that dedicate their entire lives to helping other people and doing humanitarian work on a day-to-day basis. That's not who I am. I am the kind of guy who will help raise funds and give them the means to continue doing humanitarian work. I'm happy to give them a voice through what I do now and interviews and social media, give them visibility. But those are different people from me. Those are people who have such a huge heart, and they truly believe in that we should do whatever we have in our power to help those less fortunate people on this planet, which I believe is true. But there's a big step between believing that's true and going out and spending your entire life doing that. And those people, they do that. The volunteers, they do that. The employees, they do that. The delegates, they do that. So then I met with the Red Cross in Germany, and I talked to them about their activities and what they do. And it turned out there was some Chinese medicine involved in some of their projects. That someone had a connection and thought it might work and might be able to help someone. And they were like, yeah, okay, we'll see if we can. And they funded that, and it did work, and it helped some people. And across Germany, people drown, and the Red Cross is a big part of saving people out of the rivers and lakes. And they don't have a long coastline, but they do have some long rivers, and so Germany's got mountains. So
you mean getting the dead bodies back to the families?
well, that if people do die, but also
All right.
just rescuing people who fall in and,
Oh, I
and
see.
drown, and resuscitating people, or getting to them before it gets that far.
Okay.
Coast guards and that
Okay.
kind of stuff. Then they've got Bergdienst, which is mountain patrol.
Right.
Hikers get up there and they rescue hikers or that get into accidents or get lost and this kind of stuff. They've got
Interesting, I didn't know
all
this.
the refugees that Germany has been so wonderfully accommodating to take.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they took up close to 1 million refugees from Syria a few years ago
No.
in a country with 80 million people. And you know that's not a smooth transition. You know, it needs help, and the Red Cross is there to help with paperwork and assist people. And my goodness, the amount of things, and that was just Germany. And then I went to the Netherlands, and then I spoke to them, and they just developed an app, and they were really proud about it. And this is a first aid app, and whatever situation you get yourself into, someone breaks a leg or the heart stops ticking or whatever, you go to the app and you can really easily find out what you're supposed to do. So maybe not everyone feels that they have strong legs within first aid. Their first aid capabilities have dropped over the years and they need a refresher course and so on. That's a big part of what the Red Cross does around the world. They teach people first aid. You can come and get a refresher course or become advanced as well. But so they had this app, and this app had been downloaded more than 1 million times within a few weeks. Like it's just the rage. Like everyone got this, and that was a huge success. That was good. That made the country safer. At one point, I got to Albania, and I talked to them, and they do all the same things. I mean, like they help and they assist, and there's the disaster management and disaster preparation, and there's homeless people, and there's children, and there's conflict resolution, and there's this. But one thing that was really interesting in Albania was that the government passed a law that you cannot get your driver's license until you have a first aid course. So that's a part of the package.
Kind of sounds sensible.
That's amazing. I'm like, why are we not all doing that? So next time you go out and you look at all those cars, you know that everyone behind the wheel knows first aid. Like there are people everywhere, every family basically. I'm like, that's brilliant. And then as it turned out, the only ones that had the privilege of giving that exact first aid training was the Red Cross. So all of that went through the Albanian Red Cross. And I just thought, that's amazing. I was in Poland, and they had fundraising. Fundraising is a big part of the Red Cross as well, because it costs money, you know. And they get a lot of donations, but they do a lot of the fundraising themselves, and they do it in interesting ways. In Poland, they struck a deal with a chain of restaurants, so that you would get like a placemat on the table when you arrive, and this would give you instructions how to place your cutlery when you were done eating. So if you wanted to donate to the Red Cross, you would put it like a cross.
Jesus.
And then the waiter would come over and see that, and then he would press a button which would add an additional 2%, which would go straight for the Red Cross.
Okay.
And if you didn't want to donate to you just put it at 4 o'clock as normal, and that was that. And I was like, that was really clever. and I was staying with a family for 5 months here in Hong Kong, and their 2 kids, 10 and 12 years old. I told them about it, and the 10-year-old, after that, he kept putting his cutlery like that. But then, you know, the Red Cross is whatever it needs to be wherever you are. You know, some countries are dry, some countries are wet, some countries are wealthy. And like, you go, what the heck do you need the Red Cross for in Monaco? Monaco has money. So Monaco can raise funds, and then they can send that to where it's needed. And Monaco Red Cross, Monegasque Red Cross, they do a lot of interesting projects also across Africa.
So they would be primarily educating, in Monaco, would be primarily educating the money people about the different projects around the world,
They'll do
right?
huge fundraising parties and fundraising events and go like, look at the work that the Red Cross is doing globally. The Red Cross is the world's largest humanitarian organization. It's found in 192 countries around the world. That's basically every country in the world. And there are somewhere in the vicinity of 13, 14 million volunteers on this planet. And they reach somewhere around 150 million people a day. It's not insignificant. Like the work is massive. And I think there are very, very few people, if anyone, that fully understands what it is the Red Cross does, because it does it all. There are villages where they prevent rape by putting up street light and educating women and,
interesting.
asking these women to walk in pairs, and maybe teaching them a little bit of self-respect, and encouraging them to stand up for themselves so they don't look like
timid little creatures.
You don't want that. Or helping people manage businesses. So maybe someone found a way to make a little bit of money on the street, and actually it might be a good idea. Maybe they go and get something in the forest and they bring it to the street, and they make a cup of coffee and sell it, and this kind of stuff. But when you look at the finances of it, they're actually not making money, or they're making very, very little. And then the Red Cross gives them like a tiny course and goes like, listen, this is, obviously you don't have education, but you do have a good idea. You do have intuitive mind for business. Let's give you a little push. And then suddenly it's thriving. Or they go from standing on the side of the street to buying a little place, and it goes beyond that. It's a big part of Red Cross work to give people skills. We're like, listen, you need to learn, we'll teach you, you'll be a hairdresser or a mechanic or something else, so that you get life skills. The list is endless. I mean, you go to Iran, they have a factory. The Red Cross has a factory, and they produce mosquito nets and tents and blankets and this and that, and they help distribute. So they have their own factory, and they distribute this wherever it's needed. They have a fleet of helicopters in Iran, which are Red Cross helicopters. The Red Cross is helping and assisting asylum seekers that are coming into Europe from Africa and from the Middle East. They put up refugee camps and manage the refugee camps. It's huge work. There is a Red Cross division in Brussels that is just for politics. So they have representatives in there trying to, when they pass a new bill, to go like, this can hurt so, or this can help so, and just,
so you got the lawyers, which are sort of like ensuring that these politicians don't sort of,
just see like
compromise
you have a good bill that you're about to pass. How can we make it even better by helping people? That's your overall goal.
Why does Iran need a fleet of Red Cross helicopters?
It's an easy way to get around and help people. Iran has earthquakes. Iran has flooding at times. Iran has heavy snowfall. Iran has huge deserts. It's a large country. They can use the helicopters to assist in neighboring countries as well.
So this will mainly be sort of like, natural disaster rescue type scenarios.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. In Kenya, the Red Cross has a 5-star hotel called the Boma.
What?
Yeah. So this is what's called an income-generating activity, an IGA.
Cool.
So their Secretary General, I believe, came up with the idea going like, we need to make more money so that this money can be converted into humanitarian aid. How do we do that? Well, we are Kenya. We are this wonderful place where people want to come, and we're this thriving city called Nairobi, and there are plenty of high-scale hotels. Why not have one that's a Red Cross hotel, and then they can come and stay there, and we take the money from that. But we can also use that to train people in how to work at a hotel, to work in a kitchen.
Very nice.
Do all of this stuff.
So you overloaded it quite nicely there.
So they do. So they do that. It works beautifully. On top of that, they have Africa's second largest ambulance fleet. So the stories were that random ambulances will pick you up at a traffic accident, and the first place they go is to the gas station, and then you have to pay for gas, and then they take you to a hospital, and the bills there, and maybe they don't have gloves, maybe they don't have oxygen, this kind of stuff. The Red Cross ambulances, they are serviced, they have everything they need, they're fully fueled, and they have this and this and that, and then they assist in that way. I believe South Africa has the largest privatized ambulance fleet across Africa.
Yes, I would agree with that.
The Red Cross runs hospitals.
Yeah.
Until recent years, Spain had 30 hospitals or more that were Red Cross hospitals, and then eventually they went like, anyone can run a hospital. We want to be where no one else. We want to do what no one else can do. We want to deal within psychosocial support, and we want to help those people that fall in between the cracks. So they handed over those hospitals to government and said, you can manage the hospitals. You can do that for sure. We will go out and do the things that government is incapable of doing, or where government falls short. And that's called playing an auxiliary role to government, and that's what the Red Cross does globally. So the Red Cross is invited into the countries by the government. The Red Cross doesn't force itself upon a country. It's invited by the government. The government has to want the Red Cross to be there. And then when they're there, the Red Cross is independent of government, neutral, but in an auxiliary role. So saying, okay, what do you want for your country? What are you trying to do? What kind of problems do you have? Where do you fall short? Where can we help? Where can we do this? Blood drives is a huge part of what the Red Cross does in many, many countries, that they go out, they collect the donations, they store it, they treat, and they deliver maybe to their own hospitals in some cases, and so. We can talk Red Cross for a very,
I find it fascinating, but it
There's
also
a snake farm. The world's second oldest snake farm belongs to
for antivenom.
3 things. So this is in Bangkok in Thailand.
Oh yeah.
So for educational purposes, because some people think every snake is dangerous. So it's good to get people in and say like this, that's harmless, that's harmless, that's harmless. This one is shy. It's not harmless, but it's shy.
Yeah.
It's not coming for your family at night, and so on. So not some superstition as well. They have this snake which is called a rainbow snake or something like this, and when it gets under sunlight, it really has all these magical colors. And they believe if you see that, someone will die the next day, or you will die the next day. Some believe that. So there's the educational part of it, there's the anti-venom part of it, and there's the research part of it, where it go like, if we extract venom from snakes, then can we use that to develop medicine? And we can. So and we do. Yeah, so that's amazing, and that's right next to their hospital, which is a Red Cross hospital in Bangkok.
Nice.
So. When I went to India, the India Red Cross said, "What do you mean? What do we do? Do you know how big India is? We do all of it." Like, well, tell me something. And they went like, "We have the largest transportation service within India of human remains." So there is a state
with it. Sorry, the transportation.
Human remains, so dead people.
Okay.
So India is massive, and India has so many countries, and the tourist.
So many cities, you mean?
So many cities. Oh, what else? So many countries. Yeah, so many cities, so many people, so many states.
Yes,
I guess I was going to say. And the slogan, the tourist tagline is "Incredible India," and that is so fitting on India. I love India. and it is, you go from the north to the south, people, they don't speak the same language, they don't dance to the same music, they don't wear the same clothes, they don't even look the same. The skin color, it changes slightly. So east, west, same thing. The center, India is just this mass, it's a continent almost. And then you have the Red Cross across India, and who knows how many volunteers they might have in India, in a country with 1.3 billion people. But there isn't work for everyone in their local community. So they have mass migration within their country, where people that will go to another state across country to work. And this is often poor families that have to do that, like brother or father that goes and works thousands of kilometers away, which you can do in a large country like India. And then there might be a work accident or old age or disease or something else, and they pass away, and the family cannot afford to get that person, that family member, transported back to the home village. So the Red Cross takes care of that.
Okay.
That's just like one thing out of a million things. There's clean drinking water, boreholes, but not just drilling a hole and going, here you go, here's the drinking water. No, training the community to take responsibility and test the water and know how to fix the pump if it breaks down, and manage it and get the community involved, so they care about this borehole and take care of it and protect it, and it lasts for 10, 15 years. Everything, I'm telling you, everything. I was in Qatar, and they went like, do you want to see our health clinics? You want to see one of our health clinics? I
You
went,
know,
yeah.
it just crosses my mind. I mean, it's actually really good that you chose to be like a goodwill ambassador, because it gives you an adventure in every single country that you go to. You know, you see what they're up to. You can you know,
it is eye opening. It really is.
Continue with the Qatar story.
Yeah, so they have a lot of imported workers, a lot of people from India and Bangladesh who come and build stadiums and schools and highways and this kind of stuff. And they, sometimes in the media they get a bad rep for how that's done. And I don't know if I really disagree. I think like a lot of these people, they get a job opportunity and they have better conditions when they come to Qatar than they had, right? Like they live in quarters where they have air conditioned, they have pay, they're not prisoners, they get to travel home and quit their contract if they want, but they can also go home every so often, and they have community. There's no crime. There's no crime in these countries. There's no crime in the United Arab Emirates. There's no corporate crime, maybe, but like no one would steal your purse, or no one would. You can leave your phone and then come back an hour later, it's still there. Like there is no crime. And the same goes for Qatar. So then the Red Cross went like, well, these guys, it's hot in Qatar, you know, sometimes they can't cope with the heat, or maybe they have dental problems, or maybe there's a bad knee, or maybe there's this, or maybe that. So they set up these clinics, and I can't remember, there's 4 clinics or 5 clinics, but they treat a crazy amount of people for free. So that means that all these foreign workers, they come
not
across.
For free. Somebody's paying for it. I mean, but
Qatar is not a poor country,
okay.
The Qatari Red Crescent is well funded.
Yeah.
There's a humanitarian city in Dubai, where they went. We have logistics to deal with. We send ambulances and blankets and tents and generators and all around the world. How about we have that in a few tactical locations? And then they went like, well, the Red Cross is not the only kid in town. You've got all sorts of humanitarian aid organizations and WHO as well.
Yeah.
And so how about we just come together? And we have all our warehouses here near an airport. Actually, we'll just build an airport for the purposes of this. We've got land. And so that will work out logistically, and Dubai is great. Like, where can't you go to from Dubai? Dubai is sort of nearby a lot of places that might need aid, and there will be December storms and whatnot. So yeah, they've got that. But Qatar has these, it was amazing walking around. It's clean, it's efficient, and no one from Qatar is in there. Like everyone who was in there were foreign workers. They don't get that where they come from. They don't get prime treatment for free. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Fascinating.
It is truly fascinating.
Yeah. How did you decide to actually become this representative or a goodwill ambassador for Red Cross? I mean, you must have had some sort of early interaction with the Red Cross to, sort of make you decide, okay, yeah, I'd like to do this. Was it a girlfriend, family? What was it?
I'll take you all the way back. Denmark has a really, really unique thing, which is trust. There's a huge amount of trust in Denmark. We trust each other.
Yeah.
Certainly up to a point where we've been proven wrong, right? And then we cut people out. But generally we trust. And then there's a special way of collecting money that the Danish Red Cross has in Denmark. And I don't know how many countries this would work in, because you really need this degree of trust. But
a rather homogeneous culture to be able to appreciate, and everybody cooperates with that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what it's about. But I went to Portugal and I talked to them about it, and they said they used to have it, but then it went wrong for reasons, which I'll come to in a moment. So what we have in Denmark is that the Red Cross will say, we have this one day a year, and we make this large national collection. So what they do is that they ask the nation to come in and help for this one day, be a volunteer for a day,
right,
for 3 hours. And then they put up in sports centers and community halls and so on and so on, they put up a billboard with all the street names from the region. And then you sign up and you come on the day, and I mean, like, a huge amount of volunteers. Like it's a really almost a festive event to go and help and support the Red Cross. So then you come and you go up to the billboard, and most people, they'll pick their own street. So they'll go door to door in their own street, or a neighborhood street, or just whatever's left on the board. And then you're issued a bag, and you have some brochures, some pamphlets inside in case people are not at home. You can slip that inside or something. You get this collection canister, which is sealed, and you get a couple of bottles of water, and then you go out. And then you're told you can't knock on a door until 10 o'clock. We don't want anyone to knock on the door before 10 o'clock, because we want people at home to know that if anyone's knocking on the door before 10 o'clock, it's not the Red Cross.
Okay.
And everyone finishes at 1. It doesn't matter that you have 2 houses left or 2 apartments left. Nobody knocks on the door after 1 o'clock. So we're doing it. Denmark needs to know this. It's between 10 and 1. And if anyone knocks outside of that, that's not the Red Cross. And then people go door to door, and we cover basically every household in Denmark within 3 hours based on this. And the Red Cross gets, within a day, I think the numbers are around 4, maybe $5 million US out of a nation with 5.5 million people. So that works, and that helps fund this machine. But the Danish Red Cross is working and operating in 40 countries around the world. So it's a huge operation, and the Danish Red Cross has 25,000 volunteers on its own.
Why is it so many? Why? I mean, like, why? Why 40 countries when you could just focus on Denmark?
Well, Denmark is
pretty affluent.
Denmark is a very comfortable country. We are a nation where we like to complain a lot.
So you export your humanitarian with
but our complaints are not always reasonable.
First world problems, man. First world problems.
We've got first world problems in Denmark. A lot of them. We have real problems as well. We have problems that a number of countries do not. Loneliness is a problem in Denmark, and you go most countries and you talk to them and go like, "What do you mean loneliness? Like we live with our families until the parents die, and we take over. You're never alone. Yeah. Everybody knows everything. If you're feeling down, people pick you up. Like we're all together." And we live in a society where you do not talk to a stranger in the train, on the street, in the bus. You talk to people at your workplace, at parties, at sports events, and this kind of stuff. But you go home, you stare at your phone all day. And
just as a side story, like my wife and I, we got on a bus in Finland.
Yeah.
And, both of us are pretty, we like to chat and natter and laugh and joke and we were laughing and joking and then, it was just like sort of like a little eerie silence. And I remember looking around and we were in the front of the bus facing backwards and everyone was looking at us. And, we were like, oh my God, actually everyone's like looking at us and like they're all quiet.
Yeah.
Everybody's quiet and there's no laughter or joking or anything. I'm like, oh fuck. Is it a very similar sort of thing?
Yeah, like we're Nordic countries.
Yeah, right.
So I once saw a statistic about how much money different societies they spend on the interior of their homes.
Yeah.
And in Denmark it's way up. Like you get these nice little thingies that you saw on TV to stand on your mantle or this and that. You get this painting and you get this and that. You have this TV, you have this sofa, you make it really, really comfy because you spend a lot of time inside your home. And then you go to Spain, and on average, they spend nothing because they're always outside. They're in parks, at restaurants, at cafes, and they're always out. Yeah. And you come home to sleep, so you need a bed and it's like this very basic stuff. So I think we're very solitude people. We value privacy a lot, and in Denmark we do it to such a degree where I know I value my privacy. I expect that you value your privacy. I'm going to reciprocity. I'm going to give you your privacy, and then I expect you do not speak to me. I will not speak to you. You do not speak to me. We both have our privacy. And that's sort of how it works. Like if you talk to a stranger...
That's a bit far, don't you think? Not speaking to an individual.
But you do speak to people. You just do it where it's socially appropriate.
Right.
At the workplace, at parties, at sports. Not on the street.
Definitely not on the bus.
In public transportation. There are certain questions you can get away with asking a stranger on the street. You can ask for directions. That's fine.
Yeah.
You can ask what time it is. That's fine. You cannot ask, how was your day?
Where did you get your dress from kind of thing?
Hey, you don't do that. But yeah. So then I went to Portugal and I thought about, and I told them about this is what we do in Denmark, and said we used to do this, but then so we had some people a little bit too clever, and they started generating their own collection canisters and painting them Red Cross, but they were not Red Cross, and they went out and asked for donations, and people would donate, and the money would never come to the Red Cross. So we had to stop doing that. And we're like, okay, yeah. So you do need trust in society for something like that, but that's another thing.
Sounds like this network is ripe for exploitation by secret services of different countries. I was just thinking, like you
have to explain how.
I mean, from a security perspective, I always have to think about systems and approaches getting exploited, and how would they be exploited, and like, I mean, there seems to be a lot
secret
services. Like the CIA and stuff like that.
How could they use that for anything?
Well, they can impersonate and get into different countries, get into like, countries like,
that. I was in Benin, and I was there with a local Red Cross guy representing the Netherlands on a project. They were doing WATSAN, water and sanitation projects. And we were in his Red Cross vehicle. We were going off a road, and then suddenly we see a convoy of vehicles that are white with the Red Cross on the side. And I go like, that looks impressive. What's that? No idea. Like, that doesn't exist in Benin. And we got closer, and they used the Red Cross on their trucks, and there were 2 or 3 trucks, and then a smaller vehicle, a Jeep or something up front. White with the Red Cross, and then there's a circle of writing around the cross, which the ICRC uses, which is the International Committee of the Red Cross. So it looked very much like their logo, but then the writing said something else. Oh. And the Red Cross emblem is protected. You cannot use that. A pharmacy cannot use that. A doctor cannot use that. That's for the Red Cross, and it's for the military in combat situations. Right. That's sort of it. Okay. But it's recognizable, and people, they know it, and people look at it and think aid or help, so it does go around. In this case, whatever these guys were doing, I never got to the bottom of this. We took photos and we sent it to the appropriate people, and then they probably took contact and were like, you cannot do that. Yeah. They were imitating Red Cross, probably not out of harm, but just to protect themselves. It was recognizable. Yeah. Maybe it would open doors for them and stuff like this.
You know what? I think you've done an appropriate thing about getting around the world by being a Red Cross ambassador, because I was chatting to other world travelers, and what they do is they got themselves like a UN uniform and a UN cap and like a UN clipboard and that sort of thing. Yeah. And that can get them through across borders relatively smoothly. Have you ever used your ambassador status to help you get into countries more easily? Or maybe
not really.
No?
And there's a reason. I want to protect the Red Cross. I think it should remain pure.
Okay.
And if I go ahead and do dodgy things, then people might get confused. I think people, they should know that when they are assisting the Red Cross, then it should be for something serious. Humanitarian aid, humanitarian work. And it shouldn't be because a guy has ambitions of going to every country without flying.
Okay.
So there's a blurry line there, because I am representing the Red Cross, and that is a part of what I'm doing as a part of the project.
The current identity.
Representing the Red Cross globally, in that I'm meeting them and talking about them and sharing the stories as we've just done now. But certainly the Danish Red Cross as well. And people need to know that when they donate money to the Red Cross, it doesn't go to a guy who's trying to reach every country without flying.
It's not going there. Not going to you so you can smooth the palms of people.
No. I mean, the Red Cross pays for educations as well, by the way. Literally anything you can think of that benefits humans that are in need. The Red Cross is there. Relief. Every time there's an earthquake or a tsunami or anything, the Red Cross is there. Yeah. Poverty-stricken neighborhoods or slum areas and so on, the Red Cross is there. Red Cross is building schools and houses, and it's
What about
endless.
Activities here in Hong Kong? I assume Red Cross is also here.
Yeah.
What are they up to here?
Well, now during COVID-19, a lot of elders have seen it problematic to get their medicine delivered or food stuff delivered and so on. So the Hong Kong Red Cross has been really, really strong in going out, doing the shopping and delivering it in a safe way, and putting it on their door handle or hanging it on the door handle or putting it in front of the door, and texting them and saying delivery has been made, and they can come out and feel safe. Again, I mean, Hong Kong is quite well run.
Yeah, this is more of a what would you call a money generating place. Hong Kong probably would be that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, yes, it is. But there is poverty in Hong Kong as well. There are homeless people in Hong Kong as well, and the Red Cross is there helping them. I mean, it doesn't get cold here in comparison to Denmark or Siberia or somewhere else where it gets really, really cold. But when it goes from 30 degrees Celsius to 12, and you're living on the street, you need a jacket. Yeah. And, the Red Cross is there. They will supply, they will help, and they will assist. They will train. Immigration matters as well. Refugees. I don't know. I'm not aware that Hong Kong receives a lot of refugees, but maybe.
No, I think it's mainly places like Pakistan. There are some refugees from there, also from India. These sorts of places there are.
But the Hong Kong Red Cross is a branch of the Chinese Red Cross, and the Chinese Red Cross does everything. They have horses and snowmobiles, and you need to be able to get out to where people are at.
Sounds like this is a good, if you retire early and you want a bit of adventure, sounds like something you might want to take up.
Well, let's go back a bit. Where you said, how did I get into representing the Danish Red Cross?
Oh, yes, of course.
So I did those collections. So when they asked for volunteers for those, I'd done that a few times. I knew of the Red Cross through that. And then my background lies within shipping and logistics, and I've done that for 12 years of my life. And I've always been working on other people's projects, and I thought maybe it was time to sort of look at what do I actually want to do versus what am I asked to do. And I went online, and a little bit cynical, I was wondering, where will there always be work? And I thought there was always going to be work within humanitarian aid. If it's the United Nations, WHO, Red Cross, something else, there will always be work. There's always going to be another earthquake. And we are getting better. I mean, half the amount of people are dying in natural disasters in comparison to 20 years ago, because we set up warning systems and we reach people a lot faster now. And that's a big part of what the Red Cross does as well. So the Red Cross has something called the Emergency Response Unit, ERU.
This I know about. These guys are world famous.
Okay.
World famous. Like they get drop in like paratroopers.
Yes.
Bloody paratroopers.
So
go on. You.
I was one of them.
A real? Oh god. Okay. Here we go. I want to hear this.
But only in training.
Okay.
So I applied for the job as a logistics delegate within the ERU, and they said, "Yeah, we like you. We like your profile." And they started training me, and I was fully trained for it, and I was never deployed. Then this project began. But through that training, I realized the Red Cross is massive. It's a perfect match. I'm going to every country in the world. The Red Cross is basically in every country in the world. There must be synergy. And I approached the Danish Red Cross saying, listen, I'm a little bit embarrassed because you put in all of this effort in training me for the ERU, and now I'm actually planning this. But do you think you would like to be a part of it? And that went straight to the top within the first 10 minutes. And then the boss, he said, sounds like a good idea. I'm not going to give it my go-ahead now. I have all these departments, all this staff, that we're going to send it around through these and see what they have to say. And then we're going to come back to you. It's a professional outfit. It's not like, it's not a circus. So after a few weeks, I think, I got a phone call and they said, we would like to make you Goodwill Ambassador of the Danish Red Cross, and we would like to task you with writing an always present story about the Red Cross throughout the world. So the Red Cross is always present, and we would like you to represent that through stories as you go around.
What do you mean by the Red Cross is always present? An always present letter? What does that mean?
I think you would have to see it in the context of humanitarian aid, that no matter if you're a village and a big oil company is coming there, to destroy it and remove you, then the Red Cross is there to defend and help you, or help relocate if it comes to that.
So they also do sort of Greenpeace type activities, right? Or
Well, Greenpeace is more about the environment and nature,
Yeah.
and to some degree animals,
Mm.
where the Red Cross is humans.
Hmm.
The only time that the Red Cross might care about animals if it's your livelihood, if it's farm animals, or
I
if
see.
you feel better because you have a dog or something like this. But it's all about people.
Hmm.
It's people, and it's the most vulnerable people in society. So it's like a doctor. You say like
Mm.
you have 5 patients. Who are you going to operate on? Who's going to die right now?
Yeah.
Who's gone? Okay, this one. And then you go in and you help. The Red Cross is neutral and can go anywhere on this planet. It doesn't matter if it's Taliban or if it's something else. The Red Cross can get in because whoever they are acting with knows that the Red Cross is neutral. They're not representing government. And, if you have Al-Shabaab or if you have Boko Haram, or the Red Cross is there because they have children and they have wives and they have neighbors and so on. And the Red Cross, if someone has been kidnapped, the Red Cross can go in and negotiate and have them released and say, well, what do you need? Do you need rice? Do you need electricity? Do you need what are you lacking here? How can we help you? And by the way, we would like to get these 20 people back home with us. They have been in positions where they have negotiated. The Red Cross visits prisons. I believe that the Red Cross has rescued more than 1 million people out of prisons who were not supposed to be there.
Oh, you mean like kidnapping scenarios, or,
No,
or
like,
wrongfully prosecuted?
Yeah, some government where they picked someone up and locked them away and basically welded the door,
Jesus.
or worse. I can tell you worse stories.
I'd love to hear them. You go.
The worst story I have heard is a guy who was picked up and then taken to a prison that doesn't exist, and then they did weld the door, and after some time they came and unwelded the door, opened it, and they dragged him out and they put him into a bathtub which was filled with feces, and they gave him a straw to breathe out of, and they kept him submerged in those feces for more than 24 hours. And then they dragged him out of that when it had really soaked into his ears and nose and his skin and so on. And then they threw him back in the cell and welded it up again. And nobody knows you're there. And you have no hope. You have no hope of being rescued. You are forgotten. So your family doesn't know where you are. Your family probably believes that you are dead. This could be years. So you're in a world of... And then someday you hear someone knock on the door. You're like, Red Cross, is there anybody in there? Because the Red Cross will get lists. If the government has invited Red Cross into their country, and they have in 192 countries, then the government also gives access to prisons. That's a part of the deal.
Oh, is that? Wow.
And then the Red
Interesting.
Cross,
Okay.
the Red Cross is written into the Geneva Convention. The Red
Okay.
Cross was a part of writing the Geneva Convention.
Okay.
And all the countries that have signed the Geneva Convention give access to the Red Cross as well.
Okay.
So you come into a prison and you get a list of prisoners. And told, okay, there's supposed to be 344 people here. And you find 6 that are not on the list. You start asking questions and go like, who are these people? What's in that room? And they go over and knock on the door. And that's complicated. Some places you can't just walk freely, but they get it done. And imagine to have rescued more than 1 million people. No hope until they knocked on the door and you heard, Red Cross, is anybody in there?
Yes, please. Take me out. So there's also there's an armed division. Is there an armed...
Of the Red Cross?
Yeah.
No, the Red Cross has no weapons. So if it's a war situation or an armed conflict or something like this,
the UN.
and you're picking up someone who's injured, and he says he wants to keep his gun, you talk him out of it. Like, no one gets into a Red Cross ambulance with a weapon. No one gets inside a Red Cross building with a weapon. No one travels in a Red Cross convoy with a weapon. And the Red Cross does its very, very best to avoid having armed escorts. If it is a dire situation in some country where you do need to have armed escorts, then they have to travel up ahead and way behind, so that it's distinguishable. That's the Red Cross in the middle, and there are no guns, no weapons, no nothing.
That's flippin' brave. That's flippin' brave.
Never talked this much about the Red Cross throughout these 7 years.
No, I find this absolutely fascinating.
I'm happy to talk about
it is flippin' brave to get into a Red Cross vehicle and drive through a war-torn country.
I was in Syria last year.
Okay.
Meeting with volunteers that were barely 20 years old.
Uh-huh.
And they had this ambulance, which I'm not sure there were bullet holes, but there might have been. And all bumps and dents and this kind of stuff. And they were running out of latex gloves, and they were running out of oxygen, and they were running out of basic stuff that they need.
Yeah.
And they were just jumping into that ambulance, going straight into the fire to go and help people. And think about what 20-year-old kids are capable on an everyday basis. Like, what the heck? They do selfies and all that. And these kids, they do selfies as well. But they also ride an ambulance straight into hell and bring people out.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's just awe-inspiring what they're doing. And that's not to say that Syria is on fire. There are certain hot spots there. For the most part, Syria is fine. It's a large country, a lot of people. But they go where the country is on fire.
Yeah, good grief, eh? Now, I would imagine that secret services there would be a very strong agreement between the Red Cross and the secret services of, if you say the Red Cross has to go into prisons and there's a sort of an agreement that goes on, I would imagine that the Red Cross would mandate that if there's any shit fuckery that goes on between like the secret services of that state and
the Red
copying.
Cross does not get access to all prisons. That's there are secret prisons which are secret because nobody knows about them, and the Red Cross also doesn't know. And if they suggest that they exist, they're just told, "Oh, you're dreaming," like that. They don't exist. Yeah. So they do not get to go everywhere, but they do get to go a lot of places, a lot of places. And there are some countries where they're not trying to hide it. They just have really shitty conditions with their prisons. A lot of prisons are overcrowded beyond imagination, and that's not humanitarian. So they go with the checklist and go like, you need to build another prison if you want to house this many prisoners. You cannot do that, and there are international humanitarian laws that we need to uphold. And
does the Red Cross help build other prisons or something?
I imagine in some cases, they help, but generally these are governments, and I haven't been to a country where the government is truly lacking funds. It's more the distribution of the funds across the countries.
It aggregates in the pockets of certain individuals, is that right?
Yeah, well, it really does. Yeah. Africa, I do love Africa. That's the continent I'm most passionate about.
Oh, interesting. Why?
It got to me. I've had so many
gets
good
in your blood, doesn't it?
Across, I got really, really sick there. I almost broke down and quit the project there. And
what country was that?
I rose from it and continued. I was in the very south of Cameroon, very close to the border with Gabon. I was just in a stressful situation for many months, and it just culminated. But, it was basically 54 countries of discovery. It was just going like one country to the next, going like, I had no idea. And on top of that, I had no idea the continent was that big.
Yeah.
The distance. So Denmark is about 8,000 kilometers from Hong Kong, which is about the width of Africa. So you could pull Africa up and that would fit between Hong Kong and Denmark. But let's look at the map and see what is between Hong Kong and Denmark. Well, you have all the stans, you've got your Middle East, you've got all of India is there, all of Pakistan is there. You've got a huge chunk of Europe is there, and all the diversity across that, what people wear, who they pray to, and what they eat, and who can do what, and so on. And Africa has far more diversity than that. And it's bonkers to experience firsthand. Like you are from Africa, and you haven't been to all the countries.
Oh, certainly not.
Yeah.
But I would love to. Well, the thing is, I've lost my spleen.
Okay.
I had it ruptured when I was 19 years old, and getting malaria means a death sentence, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, so I understand it's a death sentence. The spleen is a very it helps with the manufacturing of white blood cells, which is an important defense mechanism.
Right.
And I went to Rwanda.
Yeah.
You know, it was
1,000 rolling hills.
What a beautiful! I really enjoyed Rwanda. It was a lovely place. The people are great. Anyway, so I was religious about my mosquito netting and my DEET mosquito, whatchamacallit. And, you know, I even brought the tablets and whatnot. I didn't take any tablets, though, but I was following the advice of Mike Spencer-Baum. And, you know, every night I would pitch my mosquito netting. And then one morning I woke up and there was a mosquito inside my netting. And I was like, right, that's it. God damn it, I've got malaria. That's it. So, you know, I messaged Mike and I'm like, Mike, fuck, what do I do? And he's like, just chill, just relax. The probability of you having malaria is extremely, extremely low.
Yeah,
you know,
it's one of 10,000 mosquitoes.
Well, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. He was like, like if it's just a single mosquito, get out of town. And this guy is like absolutely not neurotic at all, you know. So, so I said, okay, shall I pop a pill now? And he was like, yeah, go ahead, do that. So I popped one of these. I forgot the medication, and I remember sitting in a library at that point, and the medication took effect. And I thought, that's it. That's the malaria. You know, I nearly passed out, basically. I thought, oh, shit, okay. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I really don't want to get malaria, which
nobody wants to get malaria.
No, but more so because I don't have that spleen. See, like, so that, in a sense, does remove a lot of countries from South Africa. But
you
can't
Africa. Live your life in fear. And
well, I don't want to die.
Most people go
and
and don't get malaria, so like, why would you be the one who did? And if you take the necessary precautions, you use
let's roll that dice, man. Let's roll the dice.
You sleep in places where there's air conditioning or a fan. And you wear light clothing. Like mosquitoes, they like to hide in dark spaces. So the clothes that we're wearing now is no good. You wear something light, and you take the pills. The pills, they work. So if you're going to every country in Africa, and I guess 90% has malaria, then you can't take malaria pills because you can't. You know, malaria pills are for weeks or months, not for years. Yeah. That the pills will do more damage to your body over an extended period of time.
This is what Mike was saying.
Yeah. But you're fine if you're going to Rwanda for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Then take the pills. You know, that's our luxury. We can do that. Yeah. And be vigilant. You know, don't stay at a lake when the sun is setting and that kind of stuff.
That sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, next to the fireplace and always, you know, the mosquito stuff. No, that's exactly what I was doing.
I went to every country in Africa. It took 2 years and 3 months. I went through 2 rain seasons and I had malaria once. And I'm pretty sure it was because I slept directly on the ground at a gas station in the jungle.
Yeah.
Like that's what it took.
I know.
You're fine.
Well, yeah, yes, likely I am. I just remember being a young and, you know, my dad sort of like being rather stern-handed with me and saying, do not get malaria. I'm like, okay, I won't ever get it. And then that means, okay. But no, I mean, the experiences that I'd lose out by following that advice to the T would be...
Well, then you could just take the next thing. There you go, like, well, has there been any terrorism in this country?
I know, yeah, all right, okay.
So you can scare yourself out of... You could also be too courageous, you know, and that will eventually also kill you. Find a balance. There's certain times of the year where you would maybe not travel because there would be a higher risk of malaria. Rain season. But... you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. I was paranoid. When I got malaria, and then when I was recovering, the next mosquito I saw, I thought, that one's going to kill me. And I was paranoid for weeks. And then someone said, you know, you can't get malaria two times in a row.
But you've always got it. Like, you will have the fevers.
No, it's out of the system. So that really depends on the malaria and the treatment and the situation and your body, and there's a ton of stuff. But like, there's nothing in my body now. It's 100% out. But then, this is probably not true. But this is what I was told. That if you've just had malaria, then you're immune for a couple of months.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that. It's probably not true. I imagine you can get malaria the next day, probably. But I believed that I couldn't get, so I went like, I'm invincible. And And then in that period, I just sort of had the transition where I went like, be reasonable and just think about how you go about with things and so on.
But there's other stuff out there, Jesus, like Bill Hart. There's all sorts of good stuff that take you out, good and proper.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
No,
Like it's those stories. Right now, COVID-19, you got a lot of seafarers that are stuck at sea. They can't leave the ship. They can't go back home and so on. Some of those, they need dental care, and they're out there for months after months. And some of the hardcore stories are about seafarers that then pulled out their own teeth or had another crew member pull out their teeth because there's no dentist and there's pain and it's horrific and so. Anyway, that's a good story. Let's tell that one. Yeah. How many times did that happen? Once is enough, then the story is there, right? So that's how it works with everything on this planet, right? Yeah. And it's, so what I do with the third part of my project, where I say it's a positive promotion of every country, I want to pick up the normality and this kind of stuff. That's probably also my passion for Africa, because Africa is the underdog. It's always seen as... you haven't been to Zimbabwe, you've been to Africa. But you have been to Greece, you haven't been to Europe, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, right, okay.
Well, no, so as a South African, I don't have that opinion.
No, fair enough. But once you come outside of Africa, then most people, they go like, Africa, they're all the same. They all know each other, they eat the same food, they wear the same clothes, they speak the same language. Africa's
not a country? What?
This Pan-Africanism is true in some sense, but it's just... truly wrong in others. And for that, Africa is the underdog, and I'm always there, like people who hate on Syria or Yemen or Iraq or Afghanistan. I'm there and I'm defending it, and I'm telling people, listen, do you know how well I was treated there? Do you know what I saw? Do you know what I experienced? Do you know how good the food was? Do you know how beautiful the mountains were and so on? So
that's exactly what Mike says. Mike, like, one of his favorite countries in the world is Iraq. He loved it.
Iraq is unbelievable. Great. I rode the bus to Baghdad from Jordan, from Amman, and then I had some excellent experiences. And then hung around for a bit and just went like, wow, look how they decorated Baghdad. So most capital cities, they will put up statues of politicians or military leaders and this kind of stuff. And Baghdad was just full of, it was Aladdin and a 1001 Nights of fairy tales, this kind of stuff. It was authors and it was poets and musicians. These were the statues that were put up. And no military leaders and none of all that stuff. No politicians. And you just go, that's sensible. That's the way it should be. And again, like it's the cradle of civilization. Like when the rest of us were in caves.
Come on, now we're gonna have to pull out the African angle. Africa, specifically.
Sure.
That's
but
the
Africa,
cradle.
What? 2,000 years of proper civilization with writing and
math,
right?
Okay.
Well, where do you go with Iraq or with Syria or with Lebanon? True. You go 8,000 years easy.
Yeah.
Right. They developed it. They worked it out. They set it into systems, and that's where the rest of us are coming from now.
The world was not flat there. The world was not flat.
Yeah.
I think there's a statue of an individual holding up the globe, and it goes back thousands of years. I forgot, but it's in that area, and it's
Africa's full of kingdoms and history and
no, I'm talking about Iraq Iraq Iran. There's a statue of somebody holding up a globe, the world. And it goes back thousands.
I'm sure there are several countries that have that.
Yeah, sure.
Did you know that Mali used to be the richest country in the world?
I did not. How many years are we going back?
800.
Why?
Salt and gold and really firm, solid organization skills. The country was just thriving. The way that the society was set up, it just was set up for success. And it is basically the Roman Empire of Western Africa. It used to be the Ghanaian Empire. Ghana took its name from that. It used to be Senegal and Mali and the neighboring country, all of that would be the Malian Empire. And Mansa Musa, the primary king, there were several kings, but like that's the guy you want to remember. He was the richest man in the world. And if you go and compare in the wealth that has individually been collected by anyone, no one comes near. So he's still the richest man on the planet, dead 800 years ago, but you can comparably the richest guy who ever lived. He was a Muslim, and they had trade. Most gold across Europe, in the kingdoms and the crowns and this kind of stuff, they can go and they can go and sample that and see where it came from. And that came from mines in Mali.
Okay, so they were tapping into the gold. Well,
salt.
I can sort of like gold and salt. That sort of energy, the monetary energy network, which is like, it's above water and energy and.
Mansa Musa, he wanted, as the good Muslim, he wanted to go and do his Hajj, travel up to Mecca.
Okay.
800 years ago. So that's walking from Mali to.
He did that. He walked that distance.
Well, he sat on a horse or a camel or something like that. But then he set off with thousands of soldiers and slaves, thousands. And everyone carrying gold dust and whatever, and engineers. And then as the devout Muslim, he wanted to pray in a mosque every Friday. So the engineers went ahead and built a mosque that was ready for him when he arrived every Friday. So you'd have mosque dotted across. When he reached Egypt, he saw business opportunities, and he wanted to be like the good ambassador and then make connections, so on. So they built mosques and all sorts of structures. And they handed out so much gold in Egypt that it was seen in the economy 10 years later.
Whoa.
And then he went back home after going to Mecca and continued running this marvelous kingdom, this empire. Richest country in the world, richest guy in the world, Africa.
So he was mainly doing trade with who? The Romans at the time?
800 years ago, that would be quite late for the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire probably sort of... Like Roman Empire out of Rome would be until 300 after Christ, and then they went to Byzantine,
right?
And they had an additional 300 or 400 years before it was gone. So this would have been 1200. It would have been Middle Ages across Europe. There would be French empires, Italian empires, Spanish kingdoms, Danish kingdom.
Yeah.
So they would trade. They would bring it up to the Mediterranean, and then it would be sailed across. Probably huge trading stations in the north of Africa.
Yeah. Fascinating. Mansa Musa, you said.
Mansa Musa.
I'll look that guy up.
Mansa is king or emperor, and Musa was his name.
Yeah. Well, when I was in Taiwan, I met the son of one of these kings in, I forgot what country it was, but I don't know if it was real or not, but the stories he was telling me were quite grand.
Yeah.
About, the kind of stuff that they get up to. Like, they don't lead a very, they've got enough money, basically. They've got plenty. They're quite wealthy.
There's plenty of money on this planet. It's not really well distributed.
Yeah, indeed.
The ones that help, in my experience, the ones that help are the ones that do not have anything to protect. Like, they don't have a lot of money. And the ones that have big boats with helicopters on them, you don't get close to the boats, you don't get a ride. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Unless it becomes a competition between one rich guy and another one, and go like, look, I have the power to help this guy. Then you can go somewhere, I guess. But I haven't had that chance.
What was it like in Monaco? Was it a lot more colder than African countries, I assume?
In Monaco?
Yeah.
The culture, or?
I mean, when you visited Monaco, right? Have you been?
Well, Monaco it feels artificial. It's big boats and expensive hotels and houses. And it's a tiny place.
How would you manage to live on your $20 a day sort of thing?
It's an average. So sometimes I go somewhere and then it's $50 a day, and then I go somewhere else and it's $5 a day.
Right.
So it sort of works out. But there's couch surfing. Then you can get your accommodation. Is
the couch surfing network still being used? Is it still going?
Not at all. It is by others. Yes, it is by other people. Yeah.
Okay.
But by me, nah. It's been a while.
I've met some very good friends to this day.
Yeah.
This is 10 years of friendship just through couch surfing.
Yeah.
Fantastic experience. A couple just got married and then they came to and couchsurfing just recently started.
Yeah.
And I listed my property, and they came and stayed with me. And Israeli friends, I go visit them. They come visit me. Great.
Yeah.
You know, when his birthday, I send him a bottle of whiskey. When it's my birthday, he sends me a bottle of whiskey. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I met a lot of good people through couchsurfing.
Yeah.
I used it a lot more earlier on.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing because if you go to a city like Paris, and then you have to send out at least 20 couchsurfing requests, and then you're lucky that someone will reply, because people in Paris probably get 100 people contacting them every day. And then the same in Madrid and Barcelona and these places. And then eventually I got into Western Africa, and I was still in the send out 20 requests. And then you get 20 people coming back and said, stay at my place. Like, what? It was a completely different ordeal. It was cool. I used it a lot, and then I started using Airbnb sometimes also.
The privacy it's more, a little bit higher standard sort of thing.
Yeah,
a bed.
I'm a terrible guest because I have a lot of work. Like, there's always
Editing.
some emails I need to reply to, and comments, social media need to be updated, coordinate schedule, buy tickets, get a visa, all sorts of stuff, write a blog. Oh, it just goes on and on and on. So I'm the guest that shows up, and after a few minutes go, well, that was nice. Do you have a Wi-Fi connection? I just need to work for 4 hours, and then that's really 6 or 8 hours, and that's not what couchsurfing's supposed to be.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly the wrong attitude. You're supposed to get together, meet people, drink
go
wine,
out to
have
someone's
fun.
favorite bar, go up on the hill, or.
But I love that too. If you've got time for
exchange,
it's fantastic.
Go like, wow, what's your favorite country? It's it's mine.
Yeah. There are times when I could have easily stayed in, but deliberately chose to do couch surfing, because I found it a lot easier to get to know the local people. In a hotel, it's so boring. It's so freaking boring. Like, I went to go stay in Australia, and we're still friends with this chap today. We message each other. He turns out to be a technical guy like I am. I talk to him. I ask him advice on like markets and market-related stuff, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I suppose maybe I've outgrown it a bit though. Now we're doing fancy hotels. Should take it easy there.
The social media is in some ways a substitute for couchsurfing, because people will reach out and say, when you're coming to my country, you have to contact me.
Oh.
And so quite often I'll list that. I'll put that in my phone. I'll just save them as the guy's or the woman's name, and then country.
Yeah.
And then the
or
number
city.
or contact details. And then when I get closer, I can look in my phone and search by country.
You actually do that, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
How else would I think.
So actually riding a network of literally, you can go anywhere in the world now. You can put out a message and somebody will know somebody.
I'll save you by your name and M Labs and Hong Kong.
Yeah. And then there's a good network that you can tap into. Like Mike was saying, the way to travel around the world is by I can say riding. I don't want to make it sound like freeloading, but riding networks of good people.
Yeah, true.
So friends of friends.
That's a great way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Because you can show up with a guidebook in some city you've never been to before, and you can have a marvelous time and get a good meal and so on. But you go there with someone who's local. That opens up the city in a completely different way. Because the perspective, you go, this is a wonderful place, and you're next to a local guy who says, no, absolutely not. And then they will tell you some stories. Yeah. Or you'll go like, this is really odd, I don't understand this. Say, well, there's actually a reason, and they'll explain it for you. You just see the world in a different way.
Like when I was in the Holocaust Museum in Rwanda.
Yeah. The Genocide Museum.
That's the one. The Genocide Museum. A girl named Nadine. She took me through the thing, and then we arrived at one particular poster, and you could see she was almost like there was an element of like a preparation or something like that, and then she's like okay, you see, this is in a church. This is the church where people were throwing hand grenades into this particular church, and see that girl over there? That's me.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. It was oh my God. I just hugged her. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I can't imagine.
It's a tough museum. It's so well done. And you're led through, like, you can't say, I want to see a little bit of this. You go through it all, and it's so well done. And they explain the story so unbelievably well, and it's so emotional.
Yeah.
Emotional, I wanted to say.
Yeah.
For anyone, I would think. Plus, it's not that long ago, so you get on the back of these motorcycle taxis, this kind of stuff. You know, once in a while, one of them he has like a
there's a punga chop there going.
A cut that goes, you know, and he just survived. You know, he's lying between hundreds or thousands of people in a field, probably passed out, but didn't bleed out and was saved, and that grew back together, and now he's riding a motorcycle taxi and picking you up.
Yeah.
Survivors.
And I remember, because I was with locals too, and we went to a pub, and, you know, having done a little bit of research, I was asking some questions about the Hutus and Tutsis, and I was like, and
they don't talk about that in
they
Rwanda.
don't at all, hey?
That's just
they
taboo.
don't. No. They were like, no, this we got to keep this, you know. And I was sitting at the table, and I was like, so what's the deal going on here? You know, what's and you could see like they wanted to speak about it. You know, they wanted to talk about it, but at the same time, they didn't want to. It's difficult for me to. I mean, can you imagine that in your situation? Like, you want to be open and frank about it, but then at the same time, you want to keep it. Don't want it to be your primary thing that you're showing the country off for. And I say, like, for example, can you like point around the room and tell the difference between a Hutu and Tutsi? And yeah, they would say yeah. And I say, do you hold any sort of like resentment? And then Fiona, she turned to me. She said, you know, my father was killed.
Yeah.
And I was like, boom, reality, you know, because I didn't think it was that close.
Yeah.
That she said my father was killed, and she said, I don't want to meet the person that killed my father, but at the same time, I wouldn't do anything. And I was like, okay.
Takes time.
Yeah, I said, I thought, okay, I have been a little bit of bull in a china shop during that particular thing. It wasn't too bad, but if I had done it now, I would think I would have been a lot more tactful.
Right.
Than that particular thing. But oh God, Jesus, it's a rather an emotional place when you get in with local people. You don't just stay in a hotel or something like that. Like, it's emotional. Real.
There was a bloodbath between Danish-Swedish war.
Yep.
And today there's a bridge between our countries.
Yeah.
And the Germans, they came up and occupied Denmark during Second World War.
Although
our government had written an agreement, and there was written inside an agreement that they would not attack us, but they came and took over. Denmark was trying to position itself as a neutral country. It was in First World War and wanted to be in Second as well. The Germans came anyway and overtook, and lots of resentment towards Germans.
Especially amongst the older generation.
70, 80 years ago now, you know, like, we know the stories, but you can't blame the ones that
no, you can't.
That live today. You're going like this.
My mum's that generation.
Plus, they invest heavily in Denmark.
No, I know. I mean, like you know, there was all the rage, you know, having those German jackets with a thing.
Yeah.
I got my hands on one of those when I was you know, in my teens.
Yeah.
My mom, you know, she's 70, she's 74 now. My mom, essentially, you know, like a cat with her hair goes up like that. She went like that, you know. She was like, yeah. It's difficult that generation to hear, you know, what the stories they sort of went through. The war was before my mom, but the thing is that, like, you know, there are consequences, there are after effects. Of that. Anyway, that jacket very quickly was squirreled away, just disappeared.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Coming back to, you said Monaco, and there was something I wanted to say about the Danish Red Cross as well before, which I didn't, so if you don't mind. So loneliness is like a first world country problem.
Yeah.
Where people, they get isolated, and we live for a long time, and sometimes people are married and the children, they move abroad, and you're there with your spouse, and one dies and you live for the next 10 or 15 years on your own. And children, you might feel like you're a good son because you call your mother once a week, but that might be a conversation of 20 to 30 minutes or less once a week, and then the rest of the week your mother is or your father is just lonely, and they almost attack the mailman if, just for social interaction. This kind of stuff. So the Red Cross will see if they can identify these people and then activate them and bring them into groups and give them something to do, give them purpose, and and hopefully people will make new friends, and you know, that's one way to combat that. And that's also sort of an issue in Monaco. Like, people that grow old, they have a fortune, so they're already sort of isolated in their wealth, and then the spouse dies and the children are somewhere else, if there are children, and you just kind of go crazy slowly. It's like solitary prison in an open world, and the Red Cross identifies that and helps. And that's just not a problem in other countries. Like, suicide rate is 0 in some countries, because why the heck would you kill yourself? Like, that's, you know, there's white people kill themselves. Like, we don't kill ourselves. And depression doesn't seem to be as much of a problem in some countries as it is in others. And yeah, so you can call it first world problems, or you can call it whatever you want, but the Red Cross is also there on top of that.
And you were going to mention something else about the Danish. You talked about Monaco, and then you said that you were going to say something about the Danish.
Just to say that the Danish Red Cross is a country where a big part of what the Red Cross does, outside of fundraising and immigration, and it's loneliness, combating loneliness. You might also have a child where you grew up in a horrible family, maybe one of your parents is dead or in prison or something like this. The other drinks, and you're the weird kid at school. Like, you don't really have proper parenting, and then the Danish Red Cross will match that child up with another person that can sort of mentor and help and so on. There's one thing that really got to me, which the Danish Red Cross does, that the more I thought about it, I went like, that is essential to me, which is that people grow old, and they grow older. There are hospitals and airbags and bicycle helmets and, you know, all sorts of stuff.
Oh, you clean out the apartments, right?
No, so you might be old and alone and brought to a hospital knowing that you're going to die within the next few days or a week, and there's nobody. So you're going to die alone. The nurses and doctors are busy. They can't sit by your side. They'll come and check on you and so on, but for the most part, you're just lying there looking at the ceiling going like, I can't believe I don't have anyone here. I can't believe, like, I don't have children, or they're not here, or I outlived my friends. Here I am looking at the ceiling. I'm alone. I'm going to make this transition on my own, alone. I'm going to be alone for the last minutes, days of my life. And the Red Cross will send out people. Nobody in Denmark is supposed to die alone. So if you don't want to talk, they'll just be in the room, and you'll know that there's someone in the room with you. They'll sit and read a magazine and so on. If you're incapable of speaking, there might be 2 Red Cross volunteers, and they will chat, and you can maybe listen into the conversation, but just know that someone will sit and hold your hand if that's what you want, or someone will sit and talk to you. Nobody dies alone. And that is important to me. First world problems, but that's where I come from.
No, that's fine. No, I always thought that I'd rather take myself to the top of the building and do a swan dive. Oh, I'm just kidding. No, I mean,
I hope so.
No, I've had my few brushes with death, and I think I would be okay going alone. I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't bother me that much, because I mean, at that point, it's like, man, if I had family with me, it'd be great too. But I don't know. Yeah, talk about.
Yeah, it's a bit of a heavy
subject.
Like
I've got that can lead on to a lot of other stuff, which probably won't be a good idea to open up to.
Or another time.
Yeah. Or off camera, at least.
Yeah.
Over beers. We'll bring Sebastian, the 3 of us can go have beers. Whereabouts are you staying now? Here in Hong Kong?
So I've had 4 different locations while in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
When I arrived, this family asked if I needed a place to stay for a few days.
Cool.
And I'm like, brilliant. I was supposed to be 4 days in Hong Kong. I wasn't supposed to come to Hong Kong at all.
yeah, maybe you want to lead that as well as like how you actually got locked down here. That'd be. I mean, it's not a bad place to be locked down in.
So I was 9 countries from becoming the first in history to reach every country completely without flying. And I've been clawing my way through a big part of the world. I've been fighting for it. I've been wanting to go home since 2015. Last Christmas, I swore that was going to be the last Christmas I had outside of my home. The next one was going to be at home. I didn't know how much more I had in me to keep going at this. And I need to get from Federated States of Micronesia in the Pacific, to Palau, making that country number 195.
No flying. So you get on a
so
boat.
there's a shipping company that connects between those 2 countries, but it's hard to get on board a container ship. You have to see it as a form of sponsorship, and you need to build up the relationships, and you need to reach the right. Like, you'll just get ignored for the most part. You have nothing that you can bring to the table. Most people have zero they can bring to the table. Like, why would they take you on board? Like, they're not...
Just a pure liability.
It's not a cruise, you know? It's work. Like, the equivalent would be to go to an office here in Hong Kong and say, I would like to sleep here. I see you have space left on the floor over there. I would like to sleep here. And they would just look at you and go, are you insane?
Fuck off.
Go to a hotel or a bench or whatever you want. And that's what the shipping companies, they would go like, why the heck would you ask if you could go, like, why would you think you could get on our ship? We're not a transport company. Go to the airport or buy a ship or swim or whatever you need. And that's where it's at. There's so much, there are liability issues. Like, why?
Sure.
Why the
insurance, all that sort of stuff.
You could do a number of stupid things. You could break something, or you could bring a disease on board. You'd be annoying. Maybe you're just annoying.
Am I right in saying the captain has full rights to just pitch you overboard if he wants to?
Yeah, I am. Like, the captain is the king. He's the emperor. He's the guy on board the ship. Whatever he says goes. But he wants to keep his job, and someone is paying the captain. You know, unless the captain owns the ship, which is not the case with container ships, then so he will lean in any direction that the company wants. You know, if there's no alcohol policy, then there's no alcohol on board. And if the company says we don't want passengers, you're certainly not getting on board the ship. The captain's not going to go, but you seem nice.
I'm sure I'll risk my job for that.
But anyway, so I am in with a number of shipping companies, some very large ones as well, and they've been very forthcoming and very, very helpful.
So you managed to wangle your way onto these container ships?
I've been on 25 container ships so far.
Really? So I thought, okay, so I knew it was difficult, but how did you? What's the secret? Or maybe we could tell me off camera.
If you're making world history, that is, it sounds obnoxious, but that is incentive. You can go. You can go to someone and you can say, "Listen, this has not been done for. You can take part in it." That is incentive. Some people will go like, "I don't care. Like, I made history yesterday. I drove on the wrong side of the road for 2 hours." But some people will sort of grasp the momentous, like the last great first. Is a sentence I've heard a few times recently, and you could sell that. You could say this is the last great first. Once this is done, there's nothing left. Like, I will be the first to go to every country in the world without flying. After that, there's nothing left. Everything's been done. Which is not true, but it is. It sounds good.
But it's a good pitch when you want to get on a container ship.
You have to sell it. But that generally doesn't sell it. The Red Cross angle can sell it. I leave that as my last option. Like, if I have nothing left, then I might mention, by the way, I am associated with the Danish Red Cross. Like 99% of the time, that's not been the angle.
Yeah.
And social media is good. The larger it is, like, they know that these ships are messy. Like, they're not a positive to the environment. You could argue that you are moving a lot of cargo, and moving it in any other way would be worse for the environment, but the ships are not good for the environment. And the fuel they put on, although it's getting better year for year, it is the cheapest stuff you can buy, and it's also not great. And a lot of these shipping companies are actually taking huge leaps, huge strides into segregating waste on board, and and technology that will clean the exhaust that comes out of the funnel. And
Scrubbing it.
yeah, they do a number of things, and they do a number of things to combat drugs and combat piracy and to combat everything. Like they don't want to dump water, so they pick up water and they dump water, and they want to do this in a way that it doesn't harm the nature, that you're not moving sea life from one side of the planet to the other and suddenly pollute the marine life there with sea life that doesn't belong. And so there are a number of great initiatives that these shipping companies are doing. They're trying to do it as good as they can while still making money and running a business. And the media isn't busy writing about that, but you might be. You say, I have a blog, it's read by so and so many people. I have social media, on average it reaches so and so many people across so many countries.
Cool.
Bring me on board, and I'll do some PR for you.
Oh, okay.
So that's an angle. I've spoken at almost every company that has ever carried me on board a container ship. So I've been in there and engaged with their employees and talked about.
You mean on the container ship or on land?
No, not on. Well, on the ships, you just depending on the ship.
Okay. So you do a bit of a motivational talk or something along those lines.
It goes a long way. Like if you show up and you go like, I'm trying to go to every country without flying, they think you're a tourist. You know, like everyone travels at some point, and then they think it's just a bit more of that.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. But you need the full explanation to understand.
Sure.
That to do, in my case, to do what I do, it doesn't come easy. It's not something that just anyone can do. Most people are more sensible than what I am and would have given up and gone home a long time ago. I'm just really, really thick, and I keep at it, you know? And most people wouldn't. It comes with sacrifice. People have to understand that. And you have to weigh out, how much do you want to sacrifice? At which point is it just pure nonsense? Because I would argue just going to every country in the world in an unbroken journey without flying holds very little value to the world. If you're doing it as a goodwill ambassador, promoting the humanitarian cause positively, if you're promoting people and countries and peace and friendship, and people are just people and a stranger is a friend you've never met before, which is the motto of this project and has been from the beginning, then you're adding value. That's what's important. Yeah, the people live in every country. It's not like, you know, you're not discovering something here. People have been to every country in the world. You could argue that there's a guy who's gone to every country in the world without flying, although he broke it off in, you know, flying home and coming back out, continuing and this kind of stuff. But the line is pure. So he did go from the first country to the last without flying, apart from the flying he did to go home or go on a holiday or go and do something else and then come back. And that's where I go, like, that's not going to every country without flying. And that guy, who happens to be a great guy, he goes, that is, I've got Guinness World Record, I've got so-and-so, like, it's all good. I go, but yeah, I understand the line is unbroken, but I mean, I run a marathon every month. I did 6 kilometers today. I maybe be running 6 kilometers tomorrow, accumulated. That will be a marathon by the end of the month. But no one's going to give me a medal and go like, you ran a marathon, right? So if you pick his airplanes out of that, would he still have been able to do it? And it really comes down to bureaucracy, logistics, endurance, persistence, these things. It's not just buying a bus ticket or a train ticket and getting to it on time. That is also a big part of it, but that's not the game. The game of going to every country in the world is tough, and that's why you have more than 550 people have gone to space. You've got less than 300 people have gone to every country.
Well, this is I wanted to mention my brother has rowed across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
A
rowboat.
Rowboat.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
Rowboat, you know.
Not the first, though.
No, but more people have gone to space than
rowed
rowed across the bloody Atlantic.
Yeah, I believe that. I would much rather go to space than row across the Atlantic.
You must see the drama that he went through. Good grief, you know, getting on these container ships, you know, it's rather stable, but When you had 51 days at sea rowing across the
it's-
flipping Atlantic, and your
I saw
your
one of those
desalinator-
boats in the Caribbean, and they put up like these billboards. The guy, his name, his age, and then next to it said this was his program, and every minute was scheduled out. Well, like you get up at this hour, you shit
Yes.
in a bucket, you eat this much, you row for 2
Yes.
hours, you do this, and that's just 51 days of that. And you go like the mental element of that.
Now, can you imagine? Okay,
There's a guy here in Hong Kong. I'll connect you with him.
please.
He is going to be the first to row across the Northwest Passage.
Oh dear.
They're going to do it in
fascinating.
2021,
Okay.
and they're
COVID.
fundraising right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
You should meet him.
I'd love to. I'll pick up the contact. But like for example, Rory on Christmas Day.
Was that your brother, Rory?
This is my brother, Rory Mackenzie. He was a combat medic.
Yeah.
Had his right leg blown off in Iraq. And,
Blown off?
Blown off, yeah.
So he has a...
Yeah, he's lost his right leg, but he had a little bit of shrapnel in his ass.
prosthesis. Is that what it's called?
Say prosthetic. Yeah,
Prosthetic,
yeah. He's got a prosthetic. Yeah, but it was like row for recovery. This is another.
He was rowing across, missing one leg.
It was a lot of the combat veterans.
That adds a lot of credit to the...
Six people. 4 of them have been disabled in a war zone.
Wow.
And the 6 of them went across. And on Christmas Day, after he's lost a lot of weight, because it's a very strenuous activity, going around in circles, and you're like, oh shit, you got to get the angle right. On Christmas Day, the little bits of shrapnel were starting to come out, because when you sit down and suddenly there's a metal bit of poking in your ass, you don't have that fat buffer.
Yeah.
So he reaches around and he pops a few painkillers, reaches around, pulls out the metal shrapnel from his ass, and then continues rowing. Jesus Christ.
Well, if you're that guy, then you're also the guy that does that.
Yeah, exactly. And
the discipline and the commitment to do something like that. It's a much shorter period of time. It takes out much less of your life.
Super intense.
Yeah, it is for sure. So they're basically laughing at people who go on top of Mount Everest at this point, going, oh, any tourist can do it, you have enough money and so on. No. If you get on top of Everest and come back down, you can demand respect.
Well done.
Yeah.
You walk past those dead bodies, yeah.
Yeah, but also, there's no air. And you get tired, and it's cold, and it's miserable, and you need to pee in your pants or whatever you need to do, and you get frostbite, and that's nobody does it for fun, or they're a sadist, but more than 5,000 people have done it, so and it takes up a few days of your life to do the climb.
Yeah.
But in the same way that there's a lot of preparation, in the same way that Usain Bolt, he works for less than 10 seconds and he has a world record. But maybe he trained for 20 years of his life to do that in 10 seconds. So your brother went across in 51 days. That's intense. That's less than 2 months. But there was preparation for that as well.
Oh, hell of a lot.
And those 2 months or those 51 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of it was probably good, but the majority would just have been, why am I doing this?
But it's almost like a little bit addictive for him, because now he's also does like a goodwill kind of thing, for the British Army, but also for NGOs and whatnot. He helps raise loads of money for them. Loads. He does absolutely manic things, like those paragliding things as a paraglider with an engine on the back.
Yeah.
Like 3 of them that would go. What was it called? Paragliding? Not paragliding.
Yeah, I know what.
Okay, let's just say paragliding, but with an engine on the back.
Yeah.
The whole length of Kenya. Flies the length of Kenya. Yeah, bro, that's. And then
it has to be very fuel efficient, right? Without landing.
No, I think they do land. I think that they do, but the point is that they're doing the whole length of Kenya. This is a non-trivial activity.
But it sounds great, though. I mean,
totally.
You get to look down on majestic Kenya.
Okay.
You're just,
let's
you're just
not
sitting down.
I think
The most annoying thing would be the engine sound.
I think Rory would beg to differ about, like you got to deal with all sorts of like air current turbulence and all sorts of things. Anything could go wrong.
Yeah, but you're sitting down. You're sitting there looking out. Oh, there's a giraffe. Ah.
Oh, but then also, then he also, him and a group, another sort of same group of people, they jet skied around Ireland. Yeah, okay. Now that's a little bit more different. You're sitting, but you're constantly having to deal with that.
The arms you must have after that.
Yeah.
There's a island in the middle of Denmark, which is 300 kilometers to circumnavigate, and I did that in a kayak years ago.
Oh,
it took 8 days. It's been done a lot faster than that. They have races around. But I did it as a solo trip, and I just thought it was a good idea. And I guess I rode for a couple of days, and I realized this is definitely not a good idea. At which point I had told everyone that I was going to do it, and I didn't want to come back and go, no, I didn't do it anyway, because that's not who I am. So I kept going, and eventually you get halfway, and you go like, this is only halfway? And you got blisters everywhere, and the body is aching, and you go like, what's the point? Like, why am I doing it alone? Why am I not together with someone and we can discuss everything while we go like, look at the bird or look at the fish or look how's your ass feeling and this kind of stuff. And I got around and I did it. But yeah, dumb idea.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think you mentioned why you chose to do every country in the world. Did you?
No, not really.
Why?
Yeah. That's the commercial answer.
Well, like that.
and then there's the true answer.
The true answer is more the Viking side of you coming out. Like, I can do this shit. Like, I'm gonna do something really difficult, like badass difficult, right?
I was observing this world and trying to work out what's the future going to be like. And I saw that jobs were disappearing, a lot of things were getting automated, there's a lot more efficiency, and there are a lot more people on this planet as well. So you combine those two things, you have more people, but you have less jobs. That's not really, really good. And then there's a third element, which is that now we can just move people around. If someone has gone to university and is qualified and speaks the language, just fly them over and set them up, get that guy or woman a visa and an apartment and come over and work. So, at which point do you need to ask yourself, what are you bringing to the table that's so unique that you cannot be replaced? And for most people, that's nothing. Like anybody can be replaced. And I just started wondering about that. Like, what's my job situation going to look like in the future when we're already overpopulated, I guess. But when it gets worse and fewer jobs, and basically anyone could be my competitor. You'd bring someone over who works for less money, complains less than me, does a more efficient job, speaks more languages. Why would they want to keep me for anything? When is my job going to go to someone else? And you can sit down and complain, but that's just free market. It's just fair. Best man for the job. So there was sort of a slump in the economy. This was 2013, and I was used to working non-stop. Like, I would go from one project to the next. I worked 2 years in Libya. I worked a year in Bangladesh. I worked in Kazakhstan.
Transportation logistics?
Logistics, yeah. I worked a number of places. And I came home in early 2013, and I was waiting for the phone to ring, because it always does. And someone says, do you have time? We have a job. We'll pay you so and so much. We'll give you a team, this, blah, blah. And then I usually just say yes. And then I go to the next destination. I just saw a little network where people would set me up.
Are you a ship's captain or?
No.
Okay.
A ship's captain?
Yeah. Like, so what do you do do you actually go to these places doing logistics? Like?
Oh yeah. So in Libya we're building a cement factory. So there were 30, 40, 50 engineers, and then a couple of thousand workers from India and from Egypt. And then you need a logistics coordinator to make sure that things get out of the port or out of the airport and arrives to the site, and the paperwork, and everyone's happy, and the stamps and government and And the engineers, they need to know in which order it's coming so that they can do the planning. So they're not just sitting around going like, where the heck is this and where's the heck is that, that kind of stuff.
So you're the lubrication for these rather large projects then.
So if everything runs smoothly, then
nobody's complaining.
Then you're doing your job right.
Yeah, you're doing it. Yeah. But you got home, you were waiting for a phone call,
and it didn't ring, come. And no emails, and I was just like, well, that's okay, because they pay quite a lot on those projects, especially for a single guy, and like you don't have children and a wife and this kind of stuff. So you come home and you can lie idle for a few months at least, maybe even 4 or 5 or 6 months, without worrying about finances. And then you have to start worrying and say, well, now I definitely need a project, but you know, you got some freedom. And for me, that was never a consideration, because I would just go from one project to the next, or maybe a week or sometimes a month, but then I'd be on another project somewhere. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and the phone wasn't really ringing, and I would go like, well, I'm still fine. I wonder, is it going to ring? And I found out no one's gone to every country in the world without flying. And I was like, that would be a great achievement. Like that would be, anyone who did that would be someone I would look up to. That is for sure. That's my game. Like I'm into the firsts, you know, the first to go to Antarctica, the first to go around Antarctica, the first to go across Antarctica, the first to go on top Everest.
Did you do that?
No.
I've
done any of that because it's been done. Like you could be the 2nd or the 10th or the 1,000.
Oh.
You know, running a marathon today is not nothing, but it's almost nothing.
Yeah.
You know, you need to do an Ironman to get people's respect. And 15 years ago, if you did a marathon, people would tip their hat. They go like, I couldn't do that. Oh, you did a marathon? But today, 2020, people go like, yeah, what was your time? And then if you say you did it in 3 hours, they go, wow, I couldn't do that. If you say you did it in 4.5 hours, they go like, what happened? You know? It's shifted that much in 15 years. And today it's the Ironman. Like you go out and you swim for almost 4 kilometers, 3.8 kilometers, and you get up and you get on a bicycle and you ride that bicycle for 180 kilometers, and you toss the bicycle, and then you run a marathon. And even today, and that's hard, but even today, someone's going to ask, what was your time? as if it matters. If you did that, I mean, the title is Iron Man.
Period.
But it's just not enough. You know, you've been on top of Everest, and people will go, yeah, but I saw this photo. People just basically standing online. I go like, yeah, and 10 of them died because of that. Yeah. You know, like I would like to see you go on top of Everest. People, they think they can do stuff, and especially if you come from a country like mine, like it's very much like, don't think you're better than me. Like, don't think you're better than society. Don't think that you're anything. Like,
is that ingrained into the Denmark culture, where you think don't think you're better than society?
Yeah, it's called the Janti law, and it's not a proper law. It's more like a social arrangement. It stems from a book which was
convention,
written.
Really.
Yeah, it stems from a book which was written about this society, where they had, I can't remember how many rules, maybe 10 or 15, the Janti law, and it was very much about keeping people down, keeping people in place. No one was supposed to rise.
Okay.
You know, you're supposed to be humble.
Right. It's kind of nice, don't you think?
It is.
I like it.
But it is. It is very nice. It does prohibit society from growing rapidly, because everyone's supposed to back off and not... It's complex. It's a little bit more than that. Because of course you can try your best and just thank everyone and not boast and not post on social media and so on. So. But you're not supposed to... You're just not... Everyone's supposed to be equal throughout. Don't rise above.
Right.
Don't build a company and become wealthy. Like, don't...
Otherwise your legs will get chopped down, or what? How does the leg chopping happen?
Arguably what I do is slightly frowned upon in
I
my
would
own
imagine
country.
so, yeah.
People go like, what makes you think that you can go out and have this year-on holiday while we need to feed the children and pay the bills and we need to take responsibility, and you're just out, like to do what I do, you need to be at the top of the food pyramid. Like what are you lacking in life to sit down and decide, I'm going to visit all the countries without flying, I'm not coming home until it's done. Like what the heck's going on in your mind? That's the top of the food pyramid, you know? You're not looking for shelter, you're not looking for food, you're not fighting disease, you're not like, you're secure all the way through. To make a decision like that, that's crazy. Yeah, so I think that's frowned upon. The bulk of my followers are not Danish. I have some followers in Denmark, but that's not.
But they will sort of like look on. Oh, look at this guy! What's he?
We mentioned Kenya a few times, and they went like, "We can't believe you only got 1,000 followers. Like, if you were from Kenya, you would have millions." They said that we had this guy in a wheelchair who rolled his wheelchair all the way down to Tanzania. And people were along the side of the road all the way cheering him. He's billions of followers and billions, all the sponsors, engagement. Wow. He was the hero. Like, there's the pride of Kenya. Look at this guy doing this in a wheelchair. This is amazing. So you good sir from Denmark, you're doing this. Like, they must love you. I said, I don't know who I am. There are more people in Hong Kong who know who I am than people in Denmark. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, to get back to why am I doing this? So I just got to a point where I started to look into it, dabble a bit with the idea. If I was to do this, if I were to do this, how would I do it? What would it cost? Where would I start? What would be the logistics of it? How much time would it take? Who would I get on board? What would I wear? What would I pack? And I just got deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. And then at some point, the phone rang, and I was offered a project, and I looked at it and went like, wow, that project isn't that interesting. And then I got an email, and I looked at it and went like, oh, no, I'll turn that down. That's not a great, but like, there isn't enough money in it. That's not a location I want to go and work in. And then I had a call where I went like, that's the kind of money I'm looking for. That is the location I want to go to. That sounds like an interesting job. That sounds like that's what I want to do. And I turned that down. And when I turned that down, I knew I'm invested in Once Upon a Saga. And we looked for partners and funding and media strategy.
You said we?
Yeah, I brought some friends on board from the beginning back home.
Okay.
Talked to some of my friends, and some were more interested in others, and some were really engaged, go like, oh, we can definitely get sponsors for something like this, or oh, you should think about this, and so. So we were 4 of us in the project group, and these are all the other 3 are. They have families and children and jobs, and
so they're here in spirit, really.
But they were there to build it up,
yeah.
And if I call upon them, they're there as well. But on a day-to-day basis, they are passively, they're living their own lives and that kind of stuff. But that got it off the ground. Need to set a date, and then I left. And the overall idea, to come back to this, where's the world heading? If you want to be if you want to have success in the future, you might want to position yourself in blue water strategy.
Blue ocean strategy.
Blue ocean strategy, so blue ocean, red ocean strategy. So you want to have few competitors, and you want to have a unique product. And if you're the only one who's done something, that opens doors. It has to open doors. So leaving home thinking, I'll do this, I'll have that to fall back on. I should be able. I mean, just think about it long enough, you'll find some way you can use it to your advantage if you're the only one that has something. Not with a clear thought about what I would use it for, but just go like, basically, storytelling is always going to be valuable. It's been valuable for hundreds of thousands of years. People appreciate stories. And you go out and you get some unique stories, then you got something in the bank. But the idea was to go out and then come back within 4 years, have it done, and then return to logistics.
Whoops.
Yeah. And then it shifted at one point. So people are always asking me, are you going to write a book? And I always went, no. Like,
are you going to what?
Write a book.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, no. Like, why? Like, I don't have anything to share. I don't have anything to say. So that it was like that for a long time. Plus, like, just the fear of... I've been to libraries. I've been to bookshops. And there are... Who knows how many books are in a bookshop? Like, there are a lot of books. And I don't know any of them, or maybe if we go through them, I'll know 5 or 10 of them. But the majority of the books in a bookshop or in a library are books that are unknown to me. And that's what my book would be to the rest of the world. It would be on a shelf somewhere unknown to the world. Like, why would they come to us? My mother would buy a couple of copies.
Rely on your good old mum.
So that's sort of where I was coming from. And then eventually it got to a point where I just felt I had something I could offer the world. I had some stories that could teach people about corruption or friendship or fear or courage or a number of different things, and maybe that could be written down in some solid ways. So definitely there will be a book coming at the end of this. But that was not my intention when I left home. And motivational speaking wasn't super interesting because I didn't really see that I could make much money off it. I didn't see it to be sustainable in a future life.
You can make a lot of money from it.
You
can make a shitload of money from that.
I have learned that since then. And there was a point where I particularly learned that, where I went like,
yeah.
Okay.
Like, I can do this full time.
As long as I don't get Alzheimer's and just erase it all. A couple of talks a month would, if you're have the right audience and the right connections, then you're set.
This is how my brother bought a few properties. Yeah, I know all about it. Like hearing his stories. The guy, big companies fly him all over the world to go talk. Like massive companies like Diageo, that whiskey company, the alcohol company. Yeah. Oh, shit. It's good business. Good business.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
So I enjoy doing it, and that's more important to me, I think. If the money's good, I would probably do it even though if I don't enjoy it. But I happen to really enjoy it. I enjoy getting up in front of an audience and surprising them. Like, they never know what the talk's going to be. They think they always think something, and I come with something else. And there's usually a lot of gratitude afterwards. And then the Q&A is wonderful because it takes the talks in a completely different direction, depending on what they want to know. If they want to know about this country or that, or where my shoes came from, or how long I've had my hat, or whatever it is. We're talking about what is a country, how do you define a country, and
so what countries are outstanding then?
They're all outstanding.
Well, I mean, going with what was it, number 3 or number 2?
Yeah. Anyway, so we're flying within different topics here. So one thing was, how did I end up in Hong Kong? So let's just go back to that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And say that it's difficult to get on these container ships, and I happen to have a leg in with a few shipping companies. And one of them said, well, we have a ship that goes from Micronesia to Hong Kong, then you wait for 4 days and you embark another ship that goes to Palau.
That was before COVID?
Yeah, well, no, it had started, but it hadn't.
What month
it
were
wasn't
we
a
in?
pandemic. The ship arrived to Hong Kong on the 27th of January.
All right.
So they were wearing masks here, and when the ship arrived, the captain, who's Chinese, said that there's news about a virus outbreak in Wuhan. And I said, what's a Wuhan? I don't know if I said that, but I had no idea that there was a city called Wuhan. And as soon as I got my chance, I had a look at the map, and I went, that's 1,000 kilometers from Hong Kong. That's got nothing to do with me. That is so remote. Like, these things pop up now and again, like Ebola here and there. So they'll do some reporting on that. I feel sorry for the people who live in Wuhan, but that's got nothing to do with me. I'm 1,000. People should calm down. And then I was supposed to be here for 4 days. I left the ship. I disembarked on the 28th of January. 4 days here. I was supposed to do a couple of talks. One of them got cancelled because the employees got sent home. The other one went through, and I had to buy a new phone, and Hong Kong's perfect for that. And then it was Chinese New Year, and they said it's not going to be 4 days, it's going to be an additional 7 days, so 11 days altogether. Are you fine with that? And I'm like, yeah, as long as I get on the ship, I'm happy. Hong Kong's a wonderful place. It will give me a little bit more time to explore Hong Kong. I didn't know much about Hong Kong at the time, and I was getting into it, going like, I like Hong Kong. This is interesting. This is fun. And then within those 7 days, Palau closed its borders. And we're like, what are we going to do now? Like, what's the solution here? And we were looking into getting in touch with Palau. It's a country with a population of 50,000 people or less.
By the way, I really want to go to Palau.
Yeah, everyone wants to go to Palau.
Yeah, great scuba diving, I hear.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, tiny island nation in the Pacific, beautiful paradise. And they shut their borders. And we tried to get in touch with their government, because you can do that with a place that has a small population. Tried to get in touch with their health ministry, tried to get in touch with the Red Cross there. There was a number of things. And all the doors were just closed. There was nothing to do. Then we worked out that Palau was only closed to 3 different places. That would be China, Hong Kong, and Macau.
Yep.
So if I was coming from any of those, then I couldn't come inside Palau. If I was coming from anywhere else, then I could. And the ship wasn't going straight to Palau. The ship was going to Taiwan first. So the idea was then get on the ship, go to Taiwan, get off the ship, wait a week for the next ship, get on that, and then go to Palau. And Taiwan closed its borders, and Guam closed its borders. And then, well, let's see, can I go back to South Korea? Because there's a connection from South Korea. Right. And then there's religious ordeal where they brought in all these cases.
Yeah, right.
You remember that?
I remember that clearly. Yeah.
So then suddenly that was a no-go. And then, okay, let's go to Singapore then.
We should probably mention what that was about. Maybe the audience are like, well, what do you mean? What happened in Korea?
Well, they have internet. Go online. Google religious spread of disease
in Korea.
Yeah. Well, they were what's today known as super spreaders. Like they didn't take it seriously, and they. Do you know the story?
I do. No. I mean, it was a church or something, or some sort of like religious activity.
Yeah.
I think it was more of a cult, really, and the room filled with something like 200 people, and then the infection
like a Trump rally.
Yeah. But we had something similar here, which was the sugar mamas in Hong Kong. Man, great.
That's our 4th wave.
Yeah, they're thanks to them, we got wave number 4.
Yeah, fantastic.
Good old sugar mummies.
Anyway, so that happened. Then the next thing was Singapore, and then suddenly the domestic helpers in Singapore were spreading like crazy in their quarters, and they're getting out of control. They closed their borders, and then not long after that, it was declared a world pandemic.
Yeah.
At which point, I kind of relaxed a little bit, and went. Every problem is always my problem. So every problem I have within this project is a problem no one else cares about. And now suddenly we were in the same boat. Like this was not my problem. This was the world's problem. This is something we're fighting together. And that sort of gave me relief that there would be full understanding from anyone why the project had come to, why it had stopped, why it couldn't continue at this point. Everyone would understand. There wouldn't be any, can't you do, like everyone would just understand, pandemic.
Yeah.
Plus, it would give me a much needed pause to just sort of collect myself.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is going to blow over in a couple of months. So I'll stick out here in Hong Kong. They already gave me a visa for 3 months.
Great.
So I'll be in Hong Kong for a couple of months. And I'll get my act together. And I'll be ready, energized for the last 9 countries. And here we still are, It's just been crazy like that. But anyway, so I came here to get to Palau. I was not supposed to come to Hong Kong for the project.
Right.
It just
because this is classified as China, and you've already been to China, right?
Yes.
Well, Hong Kong people might disagree, but
I don't think they really disagree.
I'm teasing. I'm just teasing.
Well, but let me just complete that sentence. I don't think they really disagree that they are not China. I believe that most people in Hong Kong are very aware that they are different from the remaining part of China. But also, when I do a lot of hiking, and here and there it says free Hong Kong, and I would pose the question: what are you trying to free yourself from if you're already independent nation? Listen, I love Hong Kong, and I see a lot more than what I talk about, because I am trying to promote the countries and places positively and look at the bright side. But it is tough for some people here for sure. Anyway, let's move away from that.
Palau?
Because Palau would have been the next one, but now then all 9 countries were off limits. They all closed their borders. One of them has opened up again. That's the last one. That's the Maldives.
Yeah.
And there are no ship connections from here to the Maldives. So like it doesn't matter that it's now open and I can go to the Maldives. I cannot do it logistically. The other the other 7.
You know, logistically can also be on. I mean, what do you mean logistically? What do you mean by that? You mean get on a container ship?
Yeah, but there are no ships from here.
But is that what you mean by logistically?
Yes. The
Okay.
logistics doesn't work out. I cannot cross land borders to get to the south of India and then find a boat from the south of India that might go to the Maldives.
Okay.
I cannot board a ship in Hong Kong that goes to the Maldives or connects anywhere because for 2 reasons. For 3 reasons, maybe, really. One is that they're not going there from Hong Kong. That's not how it's connected. So I'd have to get on one ship and get off somewhere and then go with another ship.
Yeah.
And that's not possible right now, even for the crew members.
Sure.
You know, that's a tough
Yeah,
job.
they're out in the.
Then the ships, they don't want me right now because
You're a spreader.
heaven forbid, I could bring the disease on board,
Yeah.
and they don't need to take that risk.
Oh.
You know, we saw it with the cruise ships. That goes really fast, so you don't want to risk that. So that's another thing. And on top of that, as far as I'm informed, Hong Kong is not allowing non-essential personnel to go on board container ships right now. And I'm non-essential to the ships.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be Hong Kong Immigration and the Hong Kong Maritime Organization. That it's temporary, but that's the situation we're in. So logistically, I can't get there. Then there's the bureaucracy on top of it. I might be able to solve the bureaucracy, but logistically it's not possible.
Do you have any seafaring experience? Do you know how to
I have
do
my kayak.
sailing? No, don't do that. Not kayaking. I mean, it sounds like you might want to get a bit of a skipper's license or something, and then
Yeah.
see what you can do, and then just.
But the borders are closed, so you can't get into these countries.
No, I think there is an international agreement that you can get on these boats, and you cannot be forbidden from arriving at these countries. Am I right? I think I'm right.
No, you're not right.
Really?
Yeah.
They can turn you away?
There was this guy There's this guy from Singapore who's an experienced sailor. There was his lifelong dream to go out and explore in the late days of his years, or his late days of his life, or what I'm trying to say. But anyway, so he had a sailboat and he wanted to go out and explore the Pacific. He just wanted to go to Fiji, some of the other nice islands, and meet and see and taste some coconut wine and whatnot. And he knew what he was doing. Like, he got on his boat. It was a proper sailboat. He has everything he needs, satellite phone and autopilot and supplies, fuel, all of it. And went out, and COVID hit. And he became one of the most isolated people on this planet. And the Coast Guard was chasing him off from one nation to the other. And at some point, he was running out of supplies. It's kind of like, I need fuel and food. I can't catch enough fish, water and whatnot. I need help. And they were chasing him away. And then his tactics turned to, let's go to the smallest island I can find, because they won't know. They have no cars, no nothing, but they will have water and food, and then I'll be able to resupply with them and work something out. And that's what really surprised him. This was clear in the article, that even the smallest places were waving him away and go like, Corona, Corona, go away, go away, go away. Then his satellite phone connected with Singapore, going like, I need help. This has become an emergency, I need help. And they were trying to negotiate, and he tried to go to several countries and so on and couldn't. And then eventually he went somewhere where the Coast Guards were willing to take his money, so he'd put that in a life raft and then send the life raft out. And then they would take the money, they would go shopping, they would get fuel, water, they would get some noodles and this kind of stuff, and then dump that in the life raft and push it back to him. And then he could go for a bit, and then his government eventually negotiated that he could come alongside in Fiji, where he had to quarantine for 14 days in spite of having been alone for months.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
during pandemics, that's
now there's not a single government that's going to change anything until the vaccination falls through. So these vaccination programs, that's what all the governments are. There are countries that are wide open and have been wide open throughout all of this. There are travelers that are going left and right. They're getting on airplanes, or this guy, he traveled in 15 countries with his car somewhere in northern Europe towards Western Asia. You can travel if you're in the right part of the world. If you're in Hong Kong and you're not flying, you're in Hong Kong. That's just the way it is.
no doubt you've probably looked at every single sort of.
I've been here for 340 days. I have tried. But there's another consideration. What would I be trading Hong Kong for? Imagine I get to go on a ship and come inside Palau, and then I can't leave Palau.
Yeah.
Would I want to trade Hong Kong for Palau and stick around there for another 6 months in Palau? There's far less opportunity in Palau. You know, I might as well wait until I know I can go to Palau and leave Palau and go to the next place, right?
Yeah.
So you need to consider that as well.
Opportunity costs there. Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad place getting
Hong Kong's
hold up. Yeah.
brilliant. I completely lucked out. It was so likely that I would get stuck on board a ship, spending more time on ships than anywhere else.
Imagine that. Jesus, that would
Think
even
about
be
that.
worse.
Pulling out my own teeth.
Oh God.
There have been suicides and there have been mutiny and there's been this and that at sea. This is not the common, this is not the norm, but people get stressed out being on these ships, not being able to go home, knowing that their family is in a country where COVID is off the hook. It gets to people. Not knowing is a lot worse than knowing in many cases.
Sure. I mean, recently there was I think wave number 2 or wave number 3 came about because of seafarers coming down, and
wave number 2.
Wave number 2, I think so. Yeah.
Because they could just walk in. So could the pilots, and a number of businessmen were able to just fly in as well.
Yeah.
Then they stopped that.
And the general population, I remember the general population, they were like, oh, we don't want that. You know, we were the equivalent of those islanders saying, no, go away, go away, go away. Yeah. And then you know, the politicians who were talking, they said it's very inhumane to leave them out there. But
absolutely. Then wave number 3 were people who left Hong Kong thinking we're going to go home where there's no COVID, and then they can burn it out in Asia. And then it went pandemic, and they went, oh, it's a lot safer to be in Hong Kong. And they came home to Hong Kong and spread the virus. And people were able to home quarantine, and people just come and visit them and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So then that stopped, and there's a lot of learning by doing in this. And then the 4th wave were sugar mommy.
Sugar mummies. Oh, good stuff. Yeah. It was a nightclub with the government tactfully called them the dancing group. Whereas in actuality it's a bunch of maybe 60, 70-year-old wealthy women having parties in clubs, and younger men coming around, and they're all disco partying. Oh, it's great fun.
Well, yeah, so just to, because I'm sorry, I'll have to go.
No, that's fine.
But just to round off which countries are missing. So there's Palau. There is still Tuvalu and Vanuatu and Samoa and Tonga.
Okay.
And those are 5 quite small island nations in the Pacific.
Yes.
And then there are 4 more, which are New Zealand and Australia and Sri Lanka and Maldives.
Okay, so you've not been to Australia then?
I've been to Australia in my lifetime. I haven't been there within the project.
Okay.
The same goes for
New Zealand. Yeah.
And I'll need to go back to Fiji to connect several of those islands.
Each of them are independent countries?
Yeah. So Vanuatu and Tuvalu and Samoa and Tonga are independent countries. Fiji is an independent country. I've been to Fiji, and I left some of my belongings there thinking, well, I'll be back in a few months. That's more than a year ago now. So it's known that the remaining 9 countries will take 10 months or more to complete. And this is because of the sailing schedules. This is because of the speed, the time it takes to travel between, it's vast ocean. It's 12 days from here to Palau. Think about that. That's the closest one.
I mean,
yeah. And then there's the frequency between the ships as well. So a ship might come and then do cargo operations for a number of hours, and then the next one comes 3 weeks later, something like this. So you put all of that together, and that's 10 months. The remaining 9 countries that's 10 months. That's the way it is. And then on top of that, you'll have cyclones and delays and complications and the unknown and so on. So I'm not getting home, next year if I'm sticking to this.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'll see you again.
Yeah.
We're going to go have beers. I mean, help you kill time. It'd be wonderful. Okay, let's wrap this up then. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for the conversation.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna give this a bit of a whack.
Okay. Good
Because
stuff.
the software lines up all the.
With
It creates a spike, and then
Yeah.
the software lines everything up for me. So
Okay.
I don't have lip syncing problems. Okay, that's.